Audiobook title From Power Fantasy to Depression Game, Vol 01, Chapter 01 to 30. Original title. I thought I reincarnated into a Musu game, but apparently this is a grimdark tragedy game. Chapter 01, The Thug and the Demon. The last hero was dead. The news reached our village as a drifting, hollow rumour when I was about 7 years old. It was a tragedy that managed to pierce even the suffocating silence of this desolate, backwater shantytown. The legends of the heroes had been told in fairy tales for generations. To hear that the bloodline had finally been extinguished was, quite simply, the end of the world. The demons are coming for us now. What were the soldiers in the Holy Capital doing? Those cowards are safe behind their high walls. They won't lift a finger for us. The village was a pathetic sight. There were hardly any able-bodied men left. Most had gone off to find work elsewhere, leaving behind a population of weary women, frightened children, and a few old farmers who did nothing but silently till the barren soil. You wouldn't find a single person here with even a level 1 swordplay skill. Yes, the last hero had fallen, whether it was the Demon King's cunning schemes or a desperate suicide mission by the demon army. I didn't know. I didn't care about the details of how he died. All that mattered was that the eternal struggle between humanity and the demon race had finally swung in favour of the latter. What followed was the era of tyranny. As if making up for every defeat they had suffered throughout history, the demons began to rule us with absolute, unbridled violence. I see, I thought, watching the chaos unfold with a detached gaze. So, this is the kind of world I've landed in. My composure was freakish for a 7-year-old, but that was because my soul was far older. In my previous life, I was a man born in a place called Japan, a world of concrete jungles and advanced technology that was both moderately difficult to live in and moderately convenient. I had died there at the age of 20. Why? Her voice rasped through the dark. How can a mere human who isn't even a hero do this to us? Freezing rain washed over the scene, but it couldn't scrub away the distinct, pungent stench of a dying demon. Thick, black clouds choked the night sky, hiding the moon as if it couldn't bear to witness my handiwork. It was perfect weather for a hunt. I'd made quite a few kills tonight. Being able to kill demons isn't a hero monopoly, pal, I replied. My voice was high-pitched and melodic, the voice of a young girl, but I let out a coarse, ugly laugh that didn't match it at all. It had been a shock to find out my second life was in a female body, but I'd grown fond of it soon enough. More importantly, this body was perfectly capable of slaughtering demons, so I didn't need much time to fall in love with it. I've got 3 mana, cause here, completely intact, I said, tossing 3 glowing red stones into the air and catching them playfully. You can still hear them, can't you? The voices of your kin's cause. Even a thug like me thinks it's pretty cold of you to just abandon them. These marnacas were a demon's only weakness. They were like red glass spheres, serving as the brain and heart combined. As long as the core remained, a demon could eventually regenerate its entire body. You monster. The demon glaring at me was a male or a buck, perhaps. His limbs had been cleanly severed, and my blade was currently hovering a fraction of an inch above his own core. Call me whatever you like, I shrugged, but how about we get back to my question? Feeling talkative yet? Demons were surprisingly similar to humans. They built societies, spoke our language, and maintained everything from villages to standing armies. Their biology was closer to that of a monster, yet their physical specs didn't just rival humans, they eclipsed them entirely. If you wanted to beat them, you had to strike from the shadows, and for a proper ambush, information was everything. I needed confirmation on a specific lead. Do you really think I would tell someone like you anything? Right, suit yourself. Without a second thought, I crushed one of the claws in my hand. Skill, natural regeneration has reached its maximum level. A cold, mechanical female voice echoed inside my head. That was it. That was the feeling. The rush of a skill leveling up was like a hit of the purest drug. A high I could never have experienced in my previous life. This was why I killed. Natural regeneration, huh? Not bad, but it feels a bit weak. Was the one I just killed a runt? You absolute demon, the creature thrashed its stumps, trying desperately to lung at me. I let out a long, weary sigh. Give me a break. It's your fault for not answering. Besides, your lot has been butchering humans by the thousands. Don't start whining just because a few of you get the same treatment. Honestly, the nerve of some people. He was making me look like the bad guy. I rattled the 2 remaining, cause in my palm. Being human, I couldn't hear them, but I could feel a pulse like a tiny heartbeat thrumming through the crystal. It must be a nightmare to be a demon even in this state. They remained conscious of everything happening around them. Think of it as an act of mercy, I said. Unlike the people you lot slaughter without a word, I'm giving you a chance to save these two. You get that right? Still nothing? Man, you guys are slow. I clicked my tongue. Demons love to brag about being a superior species, but they seemed a bit dim in the head. I intentionally let one of the claws slip through my fingers, then rested my boot on top of it. I didn't crush it yet, but I let him feel the weight. I heard a satisfying crack. Oops, this one's fragile, too. Then again, this is just a tiny village compared to the fortresses I've leveled. I guess the stock here is just lower quality. Fussly, of course. I'd known there were children in this village, and I'd planned exactly how to use them. Amusingly, demons actually cared for their own females and young. They showed no mercy when butchering ours, yet they had the gall to beg for it when the roles were reversed. Why should I show an ounce of pity for something so hypocritical? Leveling fortresses for the first time, the demon who had remained so defiant despite his missing limbs and the hostages looked truly broken. It was you? Did you think help was coming? How sweet. Fortress Rosaria, Fortress Echelon, Fortress Zard. You can imagine what happened to them. Why do you think I'm here? Your comrades spilled everything just to buy themselves an extra few seconds of life. You were sold out, pal. I didn't need to say more. Those places had been gold mines for my skills. I'm not the type to leave leftovers. I pressed down with my heel. Crunch. The sensation was like stepping on a piece of hard candy. Level up. Only one left. This is your daughter's, isn't it? I wouldn't hold out hope that I'm lying about the fortresses if I were you. Stop. I'll talk. Just please. Not her. There we go. That's what I wanted to hear. I smiled, leaning in close. Now, let's try this again. I heard there's a place where humans are being raised as livestock to feed the demons. Where is it? Just as humans could level up by hunting monsters and demons, the demons could level up by hunting us. Some clever bastard among them had realized it was more efficient to farm humans until they reached the perfect level of ripeness before harvesting them for skills. A human ranch. The Galileo Academy of Magic, the demon wheezed. I grinned. Bingo. True strength is not found in the sharpness of one's blade, but in the restraint shown when the heart burns for vengeance. For even in a world of shadows, one must be careful not to let the darkness within become greater than the darkness without. Chapter 02. A Lesson on Holy Blades. Galileo Academy of Magic. Established in the holy capital of Londonmal, it was, on the surface, a prestigious institution dedicated to mastering the arts of combating the demon race. That was the official story. In reality, it was a human ranch, a place where people were nurtured to develop their skills to a certain level, only to be harvested by the demons. Now, a righteous soul might immediately think, I have to destroy a place like that. But I didn't possess that kind of moral compass. Think about it logically. If I kill a powerful demon who has already grown fat on the experience points of well-trained humans, wouldn't my own skills level up at an even faster rate? I wasn't like the wolf in the fairy tale, looking to devour the little pigs in their houses of straw and sticks. Cannibalism, even indirectly, was off the menu for me. But when it came to skill experience, that was a different story altogether. Murdering humans for experience is a crime. But hunting demons who have murdered humans, who was going to complain about that? Blood would be spilled either way, but as long as it wasn't mine, I couldn't care less. It was a quiet afternoon. Reflecting on the past month of travel, I sat idly by a motionless carriage, tracing the edges of a red stone in my pocket with my fingernail. Looks like the demon advance has stalled again. Good news, little lady. We can finally get this wagon moving toward Londonmal. A stout man in his late 30s gave me the report with a cheerful grin. I didn't tell him, I already knew. I didn't mention that I was the one who had cleared the obstacle a week ago. To the rest of the world, I was just a frail little girl. I'd been killing time by whittling away at a Marna core in my pocket, and I was genuinely relieved to finally be done with that game. I put on my best expression of youthful joy. Oh, is that true? In the Holy Kingdom of Vasion, children are treated with great care, especially war orphans. It was a national sentiment that suited my needs perfectly. My mother died of illness shortly after I was born, and my father was conscripted as soon as the demons invaded. I was the pitiful girl left behind in a nameless, frozen village. Talk about starting life on hard mode. A helpless girl in this world had few options: death, murder, or finding a wealthy patron. Charitable institutions, like orphanages, only existed in the holy capital, and the constant demon invasions had stripped the common folk of any spare kindness. The state of the world was grim. It was so grim, in fact, that people readily accepted my suspicious backstory, a sweet, innocent girl who lost both parents and is traveling a vast distance to seek refuge at the Galileo Academy of Magic. My adorable appearance certainly helped, and I wasn't about to let it go to waste. After spinning a sob story to a travelling merchant that could move a stone to tears, I had secured myself a first-class ride. I'm telling you, we've got incredible luck, the merchant continued. Ever since you hopped on this carriage, we haven't seen a single demon or even a monster. People are whispering about the hero's ghost protecting the roads, but I'd bet on your good luck any day. Oh, goodness, my luck couldn't possibly compare to the glory of the hero, I replied modestly. I'm sure it's the work of some noble soul carrying on his legacy, drawing the hero spirit to us. Ha ha ha. Well, I'd take a future hero riding in my wagon over a dead one I've never seen any day. My wife's expecting soon, and I'm thinking of naming the girl Sharon after you. Don't be so humble. Hee hee. Well, I suppose I'll have to become a fine warrior worthy of the name, then. It wasn't luck. The journey would have been suicide without me. Every few miles, my detection skill would light up with clusters of demons and monsters. Each time, I'd tell the driver I needed to pick some flowers, slip away into the brush, and quietly turn the pests into skill points. To an outsider, it looked like a peaceful trip. To me, it was just a series of successful hunts. And the demons blocking the road today, I'd finished off the last of them just moments ago. I crushed the mana core inside my pocket and began preparing for the move. I was a stowaway, after all, so I made sure to be the first to help the men pack the gear. Even if I was a thug on the inside, keeping up a good front made life go a lot smoother. I wanted to kill demons, not be a social pariah. Don't you worry, the man said as he tossed a crate. Once you're granted a holy blade at the academy, you'll be a magnificent warrior. Though, if I'm being honest, I hope you hit a bit of a growth spurt by then. I froze. My hand stopped moving mid-task. A holy blade? Huh? You mean you haven't heard of them? Oh, I guess in a place as remote as yours, news travels slow. He wasn't kidding. Information in the countryside was so sluggish that the demons usually arrived before the news of the hero's death did. No one from my village had even dreamed of going to the academy. I knew I was lacking some common sense in this fantasy world, but the mention of a rare item caught my full attention. What exactly is a holy blade? Well, I don't know the specifics, but they're sacred armaments blessed by the goddess. Apparently, every student who enters Galileo Academy receives a weapon from the lake on the grounds. You know, the same lake where the ancestor of the late hero received the very first holy blade. That sounds almost too good to be true, I murmured. It seemed the goddess was quite generous, handing out sacred armaments to just about anyone. But wait, if the academy was a ranch run by demons, why on earth would they allow humans to be armed with holy weapons? Tell me, Ayn asked, looking up at him. What happens if someone with a holy blade is defeated by a demon? Then the blade is stolen, of course. It's common knowledge that a weak wielder shouldn't even be on the front lines. Hundreds have been killed by now. The late hero managed to recover a few, but when he fell, his own blade and all the ones he'd gathered were taken by the demon army. Now there are demons out there who are already terrifyingly strong, carrying holy blades that make them unstoppable. The man sighed, crossing his arms in frustration. I see. The demons weren't just farming skill experience, they were farming loot. Still, this was the best news I'd heard all day. I understand, I said, my voice sweet and determined. Then I simply have to take back the blades belonging to those who fell before me. Whoa now, I know I said you'd be a great warrior, but don't go doing anything reckless. A demon with a holy blade is a monster among monsters. If you see one, you run. You hear me, Sharon? Of course, I promised. I had no intention of being reckless, and I certainly didn't care about avenging some fallen senior I'd never met. There was only one thing on my mind. Pure, unadulterated greed. God, I thought, I really want one of those swords. The wise do not seek the treasures of this world to satisfy an endless hunger, but recognize that the greatest wealth lies in a heart that is content and a hand that remains clean from the stains of greed. Chapter 03. The Callisto sisters. The hero was dead. The news had brought unspeakable joy to the demon race. To them, the hero was nothing more than an obsessive fanatic, a human-shaped puppet sent by the goddess to slaughter their kind in the name of protection. That such a monster had finally perished was a cause for ultimate celebration. Yet, Roseanne Callisto found herself unable to taste a single drop of that joy. No, no, no. This is all wrong. A howl of manic frustration ripped through the air. Risingly, the voice was feminine, though it carried a jagged masculine edge. Roseanne was the younger of the Callisto sisters, a peculiar woman even among demons. She possessed sharp, androgynous features and a marked preference for men's attire. When her sister had told her the hero was dead, and that humanity was now their plaything, Rosen had been ecstatic. But reality had failed to live up to her dark expectations. The room alone spoke volumes of her bottomless depravity. It was a cavernous, opulent chamber within a castle that once belonged to human nobility. Now, it was cluttered with treasures the sisters had plundered from across the continent. But the decor wasn't limited to gold and silk. Beautiful women lay huddled across the floor, stripped of their clothes and their dignity. They weren't sitting because they chose to. They couldn't stand. Without exception, the Achilles tendon of every woman in the room had been severed. To Rosen, they were all eyesores, tangled hair, sallow skin, the reeking scent of sweat and fear. The mere thought of the filth contained within their human bodies made her skin crawl. But there was something else she loathed even more. Rose, calm down. A soft, melodic voice drifted through the room. Humans are just built this way. No matter how pretty they try to be, they are ultimately just sacks of flesh filled with waste. You mustn't compare them to us. A woman stepped over the prone captives, her tone gentle as she tried to soothe Rosen's tantrum. This was Alicia Callisto, the elder sister. Unlike her tomboyish sibling, Alicia was a voluptuous beauty who flaunted her curves with unabashed pride. I know that, sister. I know. Roseanne exhaled a long, shaky breath. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have raised my voice. It's all right. It's that wretched hero's fault you're like this, Alicia said with motherly devotion. Take your anger out on me or on these humans. The other Crimson ministers understand your condition. We'll fix you bit by bit. The kindness calmed Roseanne for a moment, but the bitterness quickly flooded back. Fix me? When? Every time I think of him, my mana core throbs. Damn him. That holy blade, because he cut me with that sword. The wound won't close. It hurts so much I can't even sleep unless you're holding me. To humanity, it was the hero's greatest achievement. To the demons, it was a terrifying scar. Roseanne's mana core, the very source of her life, bore a massive, jagged rent. It had been a lethal strike, one that would have vaporized a lesser demon instantly. Even Roseanne, who prided herself on her durability, had stared death in the face. To the regret of mankind, the blade had missed her vital center by a hair's breadth. But a wound from a hero's holy blade was a curse that even the Demon King would take years to recover from. Roseanne's natural regeneration was useless against it. The agony clawed at her core day and night, leaving her a jittery, sleep-deprived wreck who clung to her sister for solace. Oh, my poor girl, Alicia sighed. I'm so sorry. If it were up to me, I'd quit this teaching job at the academy in a heartbeat. But we must continue until the Demon King awakens. Only his power can truly heal you. Can you endure it until then? I can't. I don't want to. Roseanne snapped, though she quickly wilted. But I know you're working hard while the Demon King is away, so I'll try. But I can't stand this. With a sudden burst of violence, Roseanne grabbed a woman by her hair and flung her across the floor to Alicia's feet. To Alicia, the girl looked unremarkable. She was covered in bruises from Roseanne's earlier attentions and was curled into a ball, refusing to look up, a sign of poor discipline in Alicia's opinion. But Roseanne saw something else entirely. Is something wrong with this one? Alicia asked. Just watch, Roseanne muttered. She didn't kick the woman with malice, but rather with a clinical coldness, as if testing a theory. She nudged the woman's midsection with the toe of her boot. The woman reacted instantly, curling her arms around her belly in a frantic, protective reflex. You're protecting your stomach again, Roseanne observed. Her voice had gone terrifyingly flat. Please, the woman gasped, her face ashen. Have mercy. My baby, please don't hurt my baby. The reason for the woman's reflex was simple. She was pregnant. It was bad enough that she wasn't a virgin, but a child, and a boy, no less, just like that hero. Roseanne's eyes turned bloodshot. She brought that filth into my chambers. She defiled my sanctuary. My wound is screaming because of her. Clutching her chest, Roseanne clawed at her own skin until her clothes tore, exposing her breasts. Right in the center of her chest, her mana core glowed a brilliant, angry red. Usually, the deeper the crimson, the higher the demon's rank, but Roseanne's beautiful gem was marred by that hideous, unhealing crack. Actually, it's not your fault, Roseanne said, her voice dropping to a whisper. It's the hero's fault for wounding me. It's so tragic that you have to pay for his sins. Truly, truly, truly I feel for you. Now, die. It was pure, senseless spite. The woman's only crime was being in the wrong place while Roseanne was in pain. Demonic armament unsheathed. With a short incantation, Roseanne reached into the void and pulled out a sacred armament, a weapon once blessed by the goddess, now corrupted by demonic energy. It had lost its divine luster, becoming a crude tool for slaughter. It was a hammer, a massive, black iron maul that ignored the laws of weight and physics. The handle was longer than Roseanne was tall, topped with a brutal, square head designed for nothing but pulverizing. Pregnant woman realized exactly what was coming. He help. The word was cut short by a sound like a falling mountain. If Alicia hadn't previously reinforced the room with defensive magic, the entire floor might have collapsed. Even then, the castle shuddered violently, and half the windows in the wing shattered from the shockwave. Rose, at least give me a warning before you use your armament, Alicia chided lightly, not even blinking at the red smear on the floor. Her only concerns were whether the outburst had eased her sister's pain and if any blood had splattered onto her own dress. The woman and the unborn child didn't even register as a loss. Sorry, sister, but I just had an idea. Despite the throbbing in her chest, Rosen felt a smile tugging at her lips, her first real smile since the hero had cursed her. If I can't be with you all the time, I should just go out and find a perfect girl for myself. Right? A wet, squelching sound echoed through the room, whether it came from the gore dripping off the black hammer or from the twisted glee bubbling up in Rosen's throat. No one could say. True peace cannot be found through the suffering of others, for a heart that seeks to drown its own pain in the tears of the innocent only creates a desert where nothing beautiful can ever grow. Chapter 04. Dancing like a butterfly. Journeys rarely go according to plan. Even in my previous life, with all its advanced technology, a single accident or a bit of bad weather could bring everything to a screeching halt. You'd just sigh, check the news, and figure you'd wait it out. In this world, where humanity is constantly looking over its shoulder, the stakes are a lot higher. You can't push horses forever, and a washed-out road is a death sentence for a heavy carriage. Then there's the demon problem. Lately, rumours of a hero's ghost-hunting demons have kept the major invasions at bay, but smaller, sporadic raids are still popping up everywhere like weeds. Not again. The merchant's weary groan told me everything I needed to know. We were stuck again. Is it the demons? I asked, playing the part of the concerned traveller. It's a shame the holy blade wielders can't keep them back. I suppose losing so many of those blades when the hero fell really did leave us vulnerable. Inside, I was beaming. This was fantastic news. It's not like I could just murder a hero to get my hands on a holy blade. But if I kept hunting demons, eventually one of those overconfident monsters would come strolling along with a legendary sword, just waiting to be liberated. Still, having the carriage stop every 5 minutes was getting old. It can't be helped, the merchant sighed. We relied too much on the hero and his warriors instead of standing together. Now the bill has come due. Don't go blaming anyone, little lady. Well, if I had to blame someone, I'd pick the demons, I thought. Not that I actually cared about the ethics of it. Of course not. I gave him a radiant, toothy smile, activating my nearly maxed acting skill. The hero and the warriors are exactly who I want to be like one day. Lies, obviously, but the more I heard about these holy blades, or sacred armaments, to use the formal name, the more I craved one. They were weapons beyond human understanding, manifesting from a mystical lake in shapes perfectly suited to their masters. Galileo Academy acted as a screening ground to find people compatible with these blades. Force, the fact that demons had already infiltrated the place was a minor detail the general public wasn't privy to. From a tactical standpoint, it was brilliant. Controlled the source of humanity's only real teeth, and turn the strongest warriors into high-level experience snacks once they're fully grown. But hey, if I knew the house was rigged, I could play the game differently. Maybe I'd just bring my own pre-owned blade to the party. Anyway, the merchant said, offering a sheepish, awkward smile. While the warriors are doing their bit, we humble traders have to fight our own way. I hate to ask this of a guest, but could you help me out with the usual? I'd be happy to. I chirped. You're the one getting me to Londamull. After all, it's the least I can do. It sounds grand, but I was basically just acting as a glorified carnival attraction. In exchange for 3 meals a day and a ride to the capital, I was a steal whenever we got stuck near a village, and this one was massive compared to the dirt patch I was born in. The plan was simple: sell off the perishable goods, buy up local produce, and keep the gold flowing. The merchant used these stops to offset the losses from the delays. But people are poor and terrified. Meat and fish are luxuries when demons are knocking on the door. Villagers aren't exactly lining up to spend their life savings on fancy groceries. That's where I come in. One of the merchant's partners started up a tune on a lute, and I began to move. I didn't know the first thing about dancing in my past life, but here, my skills took over, making my body glide almost automatically. Then, I opened my mouth, singing skill, activated. It was an improvised performance, ad-libbed music, ad-libbed dance, and ad-libbed lyrics. I used the sheer brute force of my high-level skills to turn a roadside sales pitch into a divine work of art. I'll admit, when I first gained these skills, I complained they were trash tier for killing demons. 'Cause they say, a silver tongue and a golden voice can open doors that a sword can't. I've never met a human who didn't crack a smile at my performances. When I dance, people find themselves wandering toward the trade table. When I sing, they find it very hard to say no to a deal. The villagers started peeking out from their doors, looking spooked. A recent demon raid nearby had clearly left them on edge. Looking around, I noticed a distinct lack of men. If there had been a crowd of guys, we could have moved to Plan B selling the beer. As the song wound down, I realized someone was standing right in front of me. I'd been so into the performance that I'd lost track of my surroundings. My skills might have been doing the heavy lifting, but I'd worked up a real sweat. The person in front of me was, well, I wasn't sure. They had androgynous features that made it hard to tell at first glance. They wore men's clothes and had a sharp, handsome face, but the curve of the hips and the swell of the chest gave it away. Definitely a woman. She had pale, almost sickly white skin and short, jet black hair. She was striking, though not really my type. However, she was looking at me with the intense, wide-eyed gaze of a child who had just found a diamond in the dirt. Exquisite, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. She actually had tears in her eyes. Well, I couldn't blame her. I just combined several high-level skills I'd spent years grinding. It was a masterpiece, if I do say so myself. But the mood suddenly shifted. Usually, the merchant would be right there, rubbing his hands together and closing the deal with the village elder. This time, he was standing perfectly still, looking hesitant. Sir? I prompted. Ah, right, excuse me. The merchant stammered, bowing slightly. Where is Lord Regard? I wasn't aware he had hired a new representative. May I ask your name? So the merchant knew the local leader, and this woman wasn't him. I felt like an idiot. I'd just danced my heart out for a substitute. He took a carriage into the city the moment news of the demon raid arrived. The woman replied, with a sharp, thin smile. I'm not a servant, I'm his proxy. You may call me Roseanne. I have full authority over this village for the time being, including all trade negotiations. As Roseanne smirked, the merchant seemed to shrink. I see, my apologies, Lady Roseanne. What gives, old man? Where's that fleecem for all they're worth energy? I had a sinking feeling in my gut. My detection skill wasn't pinging, but every instinct from my past life was screaming at me. This negotiation was about to go south and fast. A silver tongue can build a bridge or dig a grave. True wisdom lies in knowing when to speak to lift the spirit, and when to remain silent to guard the soul. Chapter 05. Seeking solace. The rumour of the ghost of the hero, a tale so absurd it felt like a sick joke to the demon race, had begun to spread right around the time 3 fortresses and several neighbouring villages were decimated by a mysterious force. It's impossible, Alicia said, with absolute certainty. She dismissed the grating whispers of the demon rank and file. Roseanne, however, couldn't shake the feeling. While she knew the hero was dead, the persistent, jagged agony in her chest felt like proof that he hadn't truly left this world. 3 outposts and multiple villages wiped out, Roseanne hissed, clutching her sternum. Who else but a hero could do that to us? Though she had seen the hero's end with her own eyes, the rumours made her heart waver. If it weren't for the wound that tormented her every waking hour, she would have laughed along with her sister, but the pain wouldn't allow her that luxury. Your wound is acting up again, Alicia sighed, her voice dripping with pity. In your right mind, you'd never believe such campfire stories. It was a known fact. The hero's holy blade remained lodged in the Demon King's flesh. Even though the man was dead, the sword continued its duty, protecting humanity and refusing to let the Demon King reclaim his full power. But it was only a matter of time. The Demon King, though pierced through the heart by the cursed iron, was slowly regenerating. He was winning the battle of wills, gradually bending the holy blade to his authority. The hero's holy blade was a different breed of sacred armament. It was a masterpiece forged through generations of bloodline sacrifice, specifically designed to slaughter demons. When a human dies an incomplete death, they may return as an undead monster, Elita explained patiently. But the heroes, they fuel their blades with their very souls to pass their power to the next generation. There is no room in this world for a ghost of the hero to linger. It was a revolting concept. Killing the wielder wasn't enough to claim the sword. One had to break the soul within. Since even the Demon King hadn't managed to seize total ownership yet. It was no wonder Roseanne's wound refused to heal. Then explained the ghost. Roseanne countered. No normal human can cause that much damage. Even against the Crimson Ministers, the hero was a freak of nature. You'd think there's another one just waiting in the wings. To a demon, a hero was a natural predator. Even when the Demon King's elite threw away their pride and fought Tenjerun, that monster had still nearly wiped them out. The thought of another such being existing sent a chill through Roseanne that hurt worse than the blade. The reports say those outposts had no soldiers equipped with demonic armaments, Alicia said. Her tone remains optimistic. It was likely a human elite squad that got lucky. Those rumours are coming from green recruits who have never been on a real human hunt. Once they see how fragile humans actually are, they'll stop shaking. Fortress Rosaria, Echelon, Zar, they were all manned by nobodies. Alicia believed that if a seasoned soldier had been prepared, even an army of human warriors would have stood no chance. While Roseanne had been passed over for a seat among the Crimson Ministers due to her impulsive, and at least in Alicia's eyes childish personality, her combat prowess was undeniable. Her survival alone was a testament to her toughness. A weaker demon would have been vaporized by that single strike. Rose, you are a strong girl, Alicia said, gently pushing her toward the door. Stop letting the ghost of a dead man haunt you. Get out of this room. I'm sure there's someone out there who can provide the healing you need. Whether that someone was a demon or a human, Alicia didn't care. She just wanted her sister to stop slaughtering helpless women in a dark room and start living again. I have to tell her. I have to tell sister first. Suppressing the human village had been child's play for Roseanne. There were 2 warriors present with sacred armaments, but she had killed them both before they could even draw their weapons. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of peace. Without wasting a moment, she let her sister's hound deal with the village men. Vites the Bonita, a 5-meter-long monstrosity with black fur and glowing yellow eyes, tore through the survivors with terrifying agility. Alicia had insisted she take the beast for protection, and though Roseanne had complained that even Vites couldn't stop a hero's ghost, the fear now felt like a distant memory. That was when she heard it. It started with music and melody that seemed to drift through the air like silk. Vites dropped into a combat stance immediately, but Roseanne hissed at the beast to stay back. She hadn't expected to find her prize so soon. Whenever demons raided a cluster of villages, the local roads were usually blocked. Travelers would get stuck in the nearest safe zones, and travelers meant information. Alicia had suggested that if a merchant, specifically a slave trader, came through, they might be carrying the pure stock Roseanne craved. But as she stepped into the village square, Roseanne realized she owed her sister more than just a thank you. She had found her destiny. Silver hair shimmered in the sunlight, dancing in the wind along with the girl's lithe, graceful limbs. Her skin was a healthy, vibrant pale white, and her golden eyes held a brilliance that eclipsed any gemstone Roseanne had ever stolen. It felt as though this girl had appeared solely to wrap Roseanne's pain in a velvet embrace. A dark, obsessive desire, one she didn't even feel for her beloved sister, surged within her as she watched the girl sing and dance. Exquisite, everything about her was perfect. Roseanne didn't care about the music. The fact that a filthy human man was playing it actually made her skin crawl. But if the music stopped, the girl would stop dancing. For a fleeting moment, the pain in her core vanished, replaced by a frantic, aching need to possess those graceful limbs. The song ended. The girl's movement settled into a still, quiet grace. Roseanne felt a stray tear prick her eye, the first she'd shed for anything other than agony in a very long time. Before she could savour the moment, a man approached her. Where is Lord Regard? Don't you dare speak to me, you worm, Roseanne thought, her fist tightening. She forced herself to relax. She was going to have this girl, no matter what it took. But if possible, she wanted the girl's first impression of her to be perfect. What should she say? I killed him already? No, that wouldn't do. She needed a lie, a beautiful, convenient lie that would lead them both to a happy ending. He took a carriage into the city the moment news of the demon raid arrived. I'm his proxy. You may call me Roseanne. I have full authority over this village for the time being, including all trade negotiations. Merchants would sell anything for the right price. That was another piece of advice from Alicia she intended to use to the fullest. A heart consumed by the need to possess others often forgets that true beauty is a gift to be cherished, not a prize to be caged. For a soul stolen is a light extinguished, leaving only shadows in the hands of the captor. Chapter 06, A Deal with the Thug. To put it bluntly, my first impression of Roseanne, could be summed up in 5 words. What a creepy, repulsive woman. She didn't give the merchant a second glance. Instead, she spent every available second leering at me, her eyes wandering over my chest and hips with a predatory hunger. Back when I was a man, I never realized how blindingly obvious a person's degenerate gaze could be. It was a piece of enlightenment I really could have lived without. Now, I'm not the type to judge. If a man loves a man or a woman loves a woman, that's their business. I don't have any interest in meddling in people's private tastes, provided, of course, that I'm not the one being targeted. She had a fine enough face. If she just stood there and kept her mouth shut, men would probably be falling over themselves to get her attention. But there was a layer of sheer, oily sleaze beneath her every word and gesture that set my teeth on edge. I only have 2 requirements, Rosen said, her voice dripping with an arrogance that bordered on the delusional. First, you hand the girl over to me. Second, once the transaction is finished, you leave this village immediately. Simple, right? The merchant went pale. Even for a seasoned trader, a demand this outrageous was hard to swallow. Hey, lady, I thought, I'm a person, not a piece of fruit on a stand. It seemed my singing and dancing had been a bit too effective. Usually, my performances put customers in such a good mood that they practically throw money at the merchant. If he's happy and the business is smooth, my quality of life stays high. I'm more than willing to play the part of the talented orphan if it keeps the carriage moving. But every once in a while, it attracts a lunatic who thinks I'm for sale. In the Holy Kingdom of Asian, human trafficking is a very dark shade of grey. I've heard there are professional slave traders in other lands, but here, the poor and the weak are technically under the protection of the state. While there are plenty of people like me who fall through the cracks in remote villages, no merchant is stupid enough to hang a slave trader sign over their wagon if they want to keep their head. I'm not sure how to respond to that, the merchant said, choosing his words with agonizing care. As you know, the laws of Asian forbid trading the freedom and dignity of the innocent, especially a child. My guild would never forgive me. Besides, I've taken this girl under my wing so she can find sanctuary in the capital. I assume you're joking. A rather unique bit of humour. Perhaps the merchant was a decent man. More importantly, he was a rational one. There wasn't a trader alive who would flush their entire career down the toilet for a single transaction that offered nothing but risk. He did a commendable job of trying to shut the conversation down without insulting the dignity of the proxy, but Roseanne wasn't having it. Do I sound like I'm joking? She asked. I'm perfectly serious. Seriously? You're going to push it this far? I wondered, was she not afraid of being blacklisted by the Merchants Guild? Was this Lord Regard powerful enough to cover up a kidnapping? Looking at the state of this village and the relatively modest manner, I highly doubted it. Then I must be serious as well, the merchant replied, his voice firming up. Even if you represent a valued client, I cannot conduct business with someone who refuses to listen to reason. I'm afraid our trade ends here. Please give my regards to Lord Regard. He was used to dealing with difficult types. He gave a sharp nod to the men to start packing the wagons. The customer might be king, but there was no reason to worship a plague bearer. However, as I reached out to help fold a tapestry, I froze. What is that smell? It was a stench I couldn't ignore. Thick, heavy animal musk, but with an underlying note of something much more foul. It wasn't just a beast. It was the smell of a monster that had recently feasted on human flesh. I looked around. No one else seemed to notice. That meant the creature was currently in a stealth or standby state that only someone with my high-level detection skill could pick up. Who said you were allowed to leave? Rosen asked. She raised her right arm as if giving a signal. It was so theatrical it was almost comical, but the intent was clear. She flashed a mocking smile, her eyes locked on us. Logically, we could have just ignored her. A delusional woman raising her hand and making vague threats shouldn't be enough to stop a group of armed men. The porters barely spared her a glance as they heaved crates onto the wagons, but the merchant stayed still, staring at her hand. Is that a threat? He asked quietly. Who knows? Rosen purred. You said you understand reason, didn't you? Then you should think very carefully about the reality of your current situation. I'd hate for you to do something you'll regret. As far as threats go, it was pathetic. She hadn't specified what she'd do, and she didn't exactly look like a one-woman army. A child with a butter knife would have been more intimidating. A normal adult wouldn't cave to such childish bullying. This trade caravan had its own guards and self-defense measures. In a straight fight against common villagers, the merchant's gear alone would give him the edge. But then there was that smell. Even if the merchant couldn't smell the monster, he could clearly feel the shift in the atmosphere. If Rosen really had a monster under her thumb, the caravan would be slaughtered before they could draw their swords. I could save them, sure, but that would mean exposing my strength to the merchant, the village, and Roseanne. I didn't want that. I wanted to stay the pitiful orphan for as long as possible. Efficiency in hunting demons relied on them underestimating me. Plus, I still didn't have a full grasp of this world's power scale. I didn't know what kind of weird powers demons might have, and I still didn't even know how to use a sacred armament. Caution was the only sane play. On the other hand, I couldn't just let the merchant die. I needed my right to Londomel. I needed the food, the water, and the men who were currently doing all the heavy lifting for me. The merchant's reputation was also my only legal cover. Fine, I thought. It's not my usual style, but I can make this work. Sir, I said, stepping forward and putting on my best brave, but trembling act. Lady Roseanne only wants me, right? If I stay, then there's no reason for this to be a trade at all, is there? It was a massive pain in the neck, but I turned toward Roseanne and gave her a sweet, compliant smile, pushing my acting skill to its limit. The path of safety is often paved with the stones of patience. A wise traveller knows when to bend like the willow in the storm, for the tree that refuses to yield is the first to break when the wind turns cold. Chapter 07. Working for free. Don't treat me like merchandise. The merchant understood exactly what I meant the moment the words left my mouth. Even if he couldn't put a finger on why this situation felt so deadly, his instincts were screaming at him. Yet, he was a man of almost inconvenient integrity, and that honesty was clouding his judgment. No, I can't do it, he muttered. You have a dream, don't you? To enter the academy and become a warrior. It was the burden of adulthood. I suppose the refusal to sell a 7-year-old girl just to save his own skin. It was a noble sentiment, really. If he'd known I was actually a cynical thug on the inside, he probably would have handed me over with a smile and a wave. Well, I thought, time to give him the push he needs. I'm not giving up on that dream, I said, my voice soft but steady, but I won't achieve it at the cost of your lives. Please, listen to me, I have a very bad feeling about this place. You feel it too? He whispered. I nodded. I couldn't explain the specifics of the danger, but over the course of our journey, I'd made sure he trusted my intuition. If he couldn't make the right call now, I'd have to abandon him. I felt for the guy, but I wasn't going to die for his pride. Fortunately, I had the perfect clincher ready for a man like him. You're going to name your baby after me, aren't you? I looked him dead in the eye. Then, please, let me handle this, for the sake of your family. A long, heavy silence followed. I could practically see the scales in his head tipping back and forth, his family's safety versus his pride as a merchant. I didn't say another word. I'd made my case. If he chose wrong now, that was on him. Are we finished whispering? Roseanne called out. She sounded bored, lazily waving her hand in the air as if her arm had grown tired from holding that signal. I'm a busy woman. I'd like your answer now. The merchant took a shaky breath. Forgive me, little lady, I'll leave it to you. Correct answer. Don't worry about me, I said, turning back to him one last time. Go to the next village and wait there. I'll catch up with the caravan in 2 or 3 days. With those plain words, I cut the conversation short and walked toward Roseanne. It was time to play along. Until I figured out how she was controlling that monster, I'd have to put my skill grinding and sacred armament hunting on hold. Patience, I told myself. Just a little patience. I hated that word. In my previous life, I'd spent all my time being patient, and look where it got me: a mediocre life and an early grave. It was a lesson written in blood. But if it was patience for the sake of a goal, I could swallow that for a few days. I've kept you waiting, Lady Roseanne, I said, dipping into a graceful curtsy. I would be honoured to serve as a maid in your household from this day forward. I wasn't being sold as a slave. I was accepting a job. The distinction was thin, but it worked for everyone involved. The merchant got his caravan out safely, and Roseanne got a beautiful girl for the low price of 0 gold. The Manor the Regard estate wasn't particularly large, but in this world, housework was a manual nightmare. Even with magic and skills, things were nowhere near as convenient as the technology of my old life. Roseanne had accepted my proposal instantly. It was a win-win for her. After all, as the wagons rolled out of the village, I officially became her property. I'd traded my status as an orphan for that of a maid, but I wasn't exactly celebrating. Roseanne was currently pressing her face into the back of my hair, inhaling deeply. It was crystal clear that she wasn't looking for someone to dust the furniture. Yes, this is it, she hissed into my ear. The scent of pure to my very own Sharon, born just to sleep by my side. I'm never letting you go. Oh, revolting. Physical age aside, I was mentally a grown man. Hearing such sleaze whispered in my ear by someone who looked like a high-fashion model, was enough to make my skin crawl. Her beauty didn't make her any less of a creep. She touched my hair without asking, sniffing me and running her hands over my shoulders with an expression of pure ecstasy. I was already sick of her. Lady Roseanne, I said, keeping my voice neutral. If you overstep your bounds, you lose Lord Regard's trust. As his proxy, you should really show some restraint. Regard? She laughed. Oh, don't worry about him. Just think about me, okay? She just referred to the master of the house by his first name without a shred of respect. Between that and the general atmosphere, it was safe to assume Lord Regard was no longer a factor in this house. I see. Then what would you have me do? Is my only duty to sleep in your chambers? Let's see. It's a bit early for bed, and actually, there's some work I was putting off because you arrived. Why don't you handle it for me? I figured whatever she had in mind couldn't be worse than lying next to her in the dark. I was wrong. Roseanne led me into the largest room in the estate, a grand living room with a fireplace that should have been the heart of a happy home. Instead, it was a wreck. Toys, a wooden sword, and a doll lay forgotten in the corners. Porcelain shards crunched underfoot, and the furniture had been smashed to kindling. Something terrible had happened here, something the village hadn't seen coming, and Roseanne was the cause. Strangely, the heavy animal stench I'd smelled earlier was gone. Had she done this herself? If so, she was stronger than your average warrior. Where were the heroes from the academy when you actually needed them? This woman should have been their top priority. But the truly horrific sight was in the center of the room. 10 young women lay face down on the floor, stripped to the waist, their hands and feet bound tight. They were gagged with thick cloth, unable to do more than let out muffled whimpers. You don't bind people that securely, unless you're dealing with dangerous criminals or unless you're a total psychopath. Roseanne hummed a cheerful tune as she inspected them. Good, everyone looks healthy, she chirped, as if checking on prize cattle. Then, she walked over to the fireplace. Perfect temperature, she murmured. Here, take this. I stared at what she was holding out to me. What? It was a branding iron. The tip was glowing a dull, angry red, and the shape was unmistakable. It was a slavery mark, the kind used on the worst criminals. You're my bedtime companion, sure, Roseanne smiled. But it would be such a waste to stop there. Usually, I consider this part the main course, something I do myself with great care. People would pay good money to watch this, but since you've agreed to be my personal maid for free, think of this as your welcome party. I took the iron. Its heat radiated up my arm. As I held it, I locked eyes with the women on the floor. They were shaking, tears streaming down their faces as they realized what was about to happen. The muffled screams behind the gags, the pleading eyes of the innocent. It was a lot to take in. I'd planned on meeting back up with the merchant in a couple of days, but it looked like my to-do list just got a lot longer. Well, isn't that something? I whispered. Nothing in this world is truly free. If she wanted to play this game, fine. I was going to strip her of everything she owned before I was done. True justice is not found in the hand that holds the iron, but in the heart that refuses to strike the innocent. For every scar inflicted upon another leaves a deeper, invisible mark upon the soul of the one who gave it. Chapter 08. Protecting the innocent. My philosophy, the code of Sharon Burner, is simple. If someone is fair game to be hit, I hit them hard, and I don't stop until they're finished. In this world, the ones who are always fair game are the demons. They stomp across human lands like they own the place, slaughtering men, women, and children without a second thought. I don't even feel particularly heroic or vengeful about it. It's just that killing demons is socially acceptable. As long as I can justify the body count, nobody complains. That's why, regardless of how much of a scumbag a human might be, I generally try to keep my hands off them. It's not because I have a heart of gold. It's because the good people of this world, the ones who make the rules, don't take kindly to vigilante justice. What's wrong? Roseanne purred. Her voice snapped me back to the present. Don't be nervous. Just take that iron and press it down. It's not that hard, is it? I won't harm a villain. But could I harm an innocent? Could Sharon Burner take a white-hot branding iron and press it into the flesh of a defenseless woman? Technically, yes, I could do it without a single flicker of guilt. That's just the kind of person I am. But there was a problem. Lady Roseanne, please, reconsider, I said, my voice trembling with practiced concern. The goddess would never forgive such an act. With the demons tearing our world apart, you, as the proxy for the village elder, should be upholding the peace, not destroying it. My long-term goal was to become a warrior. It's a respectable job protecting the weak from the demon race. I didn't care about the respectable part, obviously. I just wanted my own sacred armament. However, You can't exactly become a warrior if you have a criminal record, just like a thug can't become a cop. A person who buckles under a villain's pressure won't ever be chosen as a hero. Oh, Sharon, you're so sweet, Roseanne sighed, leaning in close. You're actually trying to advise me just because you don't want to see some nameless women get hurt. But I'm afraid I can't do that. She ran a hand over her own chest, her eyes clouding with a dark intensity. My pain needs to be balanced. The only thing that soothes this ache is seeing someone else's scars or the warmth of a girl. Is she for real? I wondered, was I supposed to recommend animal therapy or something? What kind of drama queen nonsense is pain that can only be healed by hurting others? I didn't have time for this philosophical garbage. I wanted to drag her to the nearest authorities, but I still hadn't figured out how she was controlling the monsters. Until I knew her secret, I was stuck here. Then please, I whispered, looking up at her with watery eyes. Take my body instead. If you must leave a mark, let it be on me. Don't hurt these innocent people. If I'm the only one who suffers, would that be enough to satisfy you? In this situation, the goal wasn't to be an accomplice. It was to prove I was the ultimate victim. You really are a remarkable child, Roseanne gasped. She looked genuinely moved. To be so beautiful and yet possess such a noble soul. I've grown used to breaking humans, but even I hesitate to mar something as perfect as you. She hesitates, but she's still gonna do it. I noted. Like a child undressing a doll, Roseanne began to strip away my clothes. I didn't resist. I let her expose my healthy, pale skin to her degenerate gaze. I knew it from the moment I saw you. Your skin is exquisite. To think I have to brand such flawless silko, the tragedy of it. Look, lady, if you're gonna do it, just get it over with. I had to wrap this up, find the merchant and get back on the road. After everything I'd been through hunting demons, a little branding iron didn't scare me. Roseanne seemed to be getting off on the idea of leaving a permanent mark on me, but she didn't realize my body would just heal itself anyway. The physical part was fine. The mental part, being touched by her, was a nightmare. She spent forever stroking my back, dragging it out, and then she actually had the nerve to lick my shoulder. I swear, it took everything I had not to kill her right then and there. Try your best to endure it, then, she whispered. Satisfied with her creepy little ritual, she stuffed a cloth into my mouth and pressed the glowing iron against my back. Sizzle. The sound of searing skin filled the room. The smell of burning flesh. My flesh drifted into the air. The pain? Zero. Absolutely nothing. My high-level endurance skill, forged in the fires of actual combat, automatically shut down my pain receptors. But I had to make it look good. If I just sat there like a statue, the jig was up. MMH. I threw my acting skill into overdrive. I clamped my teeth down on the cloth and scraped my fingernails against the wooden floorboards. Since I'd never actually seen someone get branded before, I just gave it my best dying of agony performance. Does it hurt? Roseanne crooned. That's the sting of self-sacrifice. Once you move past it, you'll be truly worthy of standing by my side. Not a chance in hell. She kept pressing the iron down, twisting it slightly, while I internally plotted how to throw her into the deepest, darkest dungeon in the holy kingdom of Vasion. Finally, she pulled the iron away. She inspected the mark on my back with a sickening wide-eyed grin. Oh, you poor thing, it looks so painful. Don't worry, I'll put some ointment on it. By the time we go to bed tonight, the sting will have faded. We can finish our masterpiece under the covers, okay? She thinks she's an artist now, I thought bitterly. What a piece of work. I didn't talk back. I just lay there, limp and exhausted, playing the part of the broken martyr to the end. I felt her cold fingers spreading grease over the burn, and I just closed my eyes and waited for my chance to strike. The shadow of a wrongdoer may grow long in the evening sun, but it can never extinguish the light of a soul that chooses to suffer, so that others may remain whole. For true nobility is found in the heart that stands as a shield when the world turns to fire. Chapter 09. The women of Dulgur village. It all happened so fast. Only 2 days had passed since the news of the demon advance reached us, and 2 warriors from the academy arrived to protect Dulgur village. On that day, a single monster and a female demon descended upon us like a nightmare. We've killed plenty of their kind before. Don't you worry. We won't let a single demon set foot in this village. The demon activity has been picking up lately, so think of us as an insurance policy. They won't come here, so just go about your lives as usual. Everyone in the village believed the words of the cheerful Cain and the soft-spoken Roy. They patrolled our streets carrying sacred armaments the holy blades forged specifically to slaughter demons. With them on guard, we felt safe enough to continue our daily routines. Kane, watch out. These two are in a different league. Just because the hero is dead doesn't mean every bottom feeder gets to act tough. Come on then, we're your opponents. With a final shout of everyone, run. Kane and Roy charged at the monster and the female demon that had breached our perimeter. Elder Regard took the lead, trying to usher us toward the neighbouring village as quickly as possible. But in that moment, we realised there was no escaping this nightmare. Hello, humans. It's a dangerous world out there, but surely you can spare some hospitality for a guest. A massive, bone-shaking thud echoed through the air. A giant hound had landed directly in our path, cutting off our only escape. The woman riding on its back tossed something toward us. Two things, actually. The severed heads of Kane and Roy. The defeat of the two men who had sworn to protect us mirrored our own fate. Despair and disappointment washed over us as we realized our protectors were gone. We were helpless, and the only way we could process the horror was to scream. I'm Roseanne Callisto, the woman announced. She wore men's clothing and possessed a terrifying, arrogant beauty. Sister to Alicia Callisto, one of the Crimson Ministers. I trust you understand that makes me an honored guest. After murdering two warriors, this creature had the gall to call herself a guest. She gave the people of Dulgar village two choices. First, every man in the village was to die. Second, the remaining women had to choose between death or total submission. There was no room for refusal. Under the rule of this tyrant, every male, including Elder Regard, regardless of age, was slaughtered. Those women who didn't meet her standards were fed alive to that monstrous hound. The rumours of the hero's death must have been true. When he was alive, there were skirmishes along the border, but we had never heard of such a localized, brutal massacre. Why had Roseanne chosen Dulgar? Simply because we were near a major trade route. She had stopped a merchant caravan and attacked our village for the sole purpose of finding pretty girls to satisfy her whims, and she had already found her first victim, a tiny girl with long silver hair and golden eyes. When I first saw her, I thought she was an angel sent by the goddess to save us from this hell. I lay on the floor of the Regard estate's ruined living room, stripped and bound in a pathetic heap. I was at my breaking point. Hearing the snatches of conversation, I realised the girl had become Roseanne's favourite, and I wept for the cruel reality of it. Then the horror deepened. Roseanne handed the girl a branding iron, glowing red hot from the fireplace, and ordered her to press it into our backs. What had we done to deserve this? But death would have been worse. I bit down on the cloth gag and prayed to the goddess, a silent, impossible plea. Please, don't let it hurt. And then, a miracle happened. The girl actually answered my prayer. Bravely, she spoke up, advising Roseanne to stop this brutality. Of course, the girl didn't know the truth, that Roseanne was a cold-blooded demon who had hidden her horns and her mana core to pass herself off as a human proxy for the late Elder Regard. It was a flimsy lie, a child's fabrication, but the only person who could have exposed her, the real Elder, had been murdered. It would have been easy for us to tell the girl the truth, but we were paralysed. Who would dare defy the woman who had killed an entire village without blinking? Besides, what would telling a small child achieve? It would only make the situation worse. But the girl did something incredible. She begged Roseanne to brand her instead. Take me and leave these people alone, she pleaded. It was an act of self-sacrifice, so courageous, it was hard to believe it came from someone so small. My own sister, who is 15 and just entered the academy, is a brave girl. But in this hopeless situation, would she have done the same for total strangers, especially at the age of 7 or 8? It was like watching one of the legends of the heroes come to life before my very eyes. Even Roseanne seemed moved by the display. She was in a disturbingly good mood as she prepared the iron. I watched it happen. I smelled the burning hair and flesh, and I heard the girl's muffled cries of agony. It felt like a punishment for our own cowardice for letting this child be sold to a demon just so we could live. Hours have passed, and the sun has long since set. No one in the room dares to speak. We haven't even had the chance to mourn our dead friends and family, and I feel I have no right to even ask the girl for forgiveness. Is this a trial? A punishment for relying too much on the hero to protect us? Or would things have been different if we all possessed a heart as noble as hers? As we sat in the oppressive silence of the Regard estate, I know we were all thinking the same thing. Please, let Roseanne be struck down by heaven. No, get away from me. You're not cute at all. I don't want you. Stay back. Stay back. A pathetic, shrieking voice suddenly tore through the house, and Roseanne came bursting into the room. I couldn't believe my eyes. The woman, who hadn't taken a single scratch from 2 seasoned warriors, was now a battered, sobbing wreck. Who could have done this? I stared toward the hallway where she had come from. In the pale moonlight, a figure appeared, silver hair shimmering like silk, and golden eyes burning with a terrifying, predatory light. That's a pretty mean thing to say, Roseanne. I thought we were going to share a lifetime of love. The voice was high-pitched and melodic, belonging to the very girl who had embodied courage and justice only hours before. But now, it was filled with a coarse, jagged edge. Come out and play, you coward. I'm going to slaughter you just like I did that mangy mutt of yours. The loudest scream of a tyrant is often heard when the mirror of their own cruelty is held before them. For when the mask of power slips, only the hollow echo of a frightened soul remains to face the storm they invited. Chapter 10. A thug faces a crisis of chastity. Roseanne's motivations were a blurred mess. She claimed she needed to heal her wound, but from the outside, she didn't have a scratch on her. The idea that a physical injury could only be cured by inflicting pain on others or receiving love was absurd. Perhaps it was a psychological scar, the kind of trauma that twisted the mind until it broke. Unfortunately, I'm no doctor. I didn't have the slightest desire to play therapist, but I was frustrated. If I'd known how she was taming the monsters lurking around this village, I might have been able to bargain for that information in exchange for treatment. In this world, medical science is a neglected field because magic has taken its place. Most people don't see the need for a surgeon when a recovery spell can knit bone and seal flesh in seconds. I was the same. Between my natural regeneration skill and my high endurance, I never felt the need for a physician. Of course, the more severe the injury, the higher the cost of the magic. Whatever was wrong with Roseanne, it was baffling that a woman capable of seizing a whole village couldn't find a way to heal herself. Then again, this is a fantasy world. Sometimes the rules of logic just don't apply to curses or magical maladies. The real mystery was her control over the monsters. Generally, creatures are split into two categories: holy beasts and demonic beasts. Holy beasts are said to communicate with those who follow the goddess, while demonic beasts are mindless predators, much like the demon race itself. Was Roseanne using a holy beast? It seemed unlikely. Those creatures rarely attack humans without provocation. Yet the stench of death hanging over this village was too heavy to be the work of one woman alone. They say pets resemble their owners. If Roseanne had managed to turn a holy beast into a slaughterhound, she was even more terrifying than I thought. But what if she was a human who had somehow tamed a demonic beast? Now that was something I couldn't ignore. Compared to a discovery like that, getting my back branded was a minor inconvenience. Usually, when common sense is broken like that, a skill is involved. And if a human like Roseanne could do it, there was no reason I couldn't learn it too. Still, I couldn't leave the merchant waiting forever. If I didn't figure out her trick in the next 48 hours, I was leaving. The women imprisoned in the Regard estate would have to fend for themselves. It sounds cold, but I'm not their guardian. I'm sure they'd find a way to survive. People are resilient when they have to be. Come here, Sharon, Roseanne purred. She had changed into a negligee so thin it was practically a suggestion, and was beckoning me toward the bed. I'm not one to judge intelligence, but why on earth did she think I'd want to cuddle after she'd literally seared her mark into my flesh? Even with zero interest in romance, I could tell her seduction technique was catastrophically flawed. We were in a house away from the main estate, a place Roseanne claimed was free of men. Judging by the lack of male clothing and the varying sizes of dresses in the wardrobe, it had likely belonged to a mother and daughter or two sisters. My deductions were usually spot on. At 7 years old, facing a crisis of my own chastity was not how I envisioned this life going, especially with a female predator. This was my first night in a real bed in weeks, and I couldn't even enjoy it. My plan was simple: kill demons, level up, and live a harmless life of violence. Where did I go wrong? Even if we're both girls, I stammered, doing this when we've only just met and in our underwear. Are you shy? Roseanne giggled. Don't worry, there's no one left in this village to see us. I've killed all the savage men, and the women belong to me. My sister will find out eventually, but she'll accept you. I know she will. There's a sister too? Finding out about her family felt like discovering a nest of cockroaches. I prayed there wasn't a third one. One Roseanne was more than enough, but she'd just let a very important detail slip. So that's why there are no men left. Even Lord Regard. Of course, I had no reason to keep them alive. You've been hiding it, Sharon. But I can tell. You're brave, you're kind, and you're sharp. You already knew my pet was here, didn't you? You weren't exactly hiding it, lady, I thought. So the men, they're all inside the monster's stomach? Bingo. You're a naughty girl for trying to play dumb. Normally, I'd have to punish you for that, but I let it slide. You're special. I'd like to see you try to punish me, I growled internally. Her casual confession of mass murder was staggering. Did she honestly think I was suffering from Stockholm Syndrome? Why do you hate men so much? I asked, playing the curious child. I get having preferences, but you've gone way past that. There has to be a reason, right? Roseanne hesitated. Her misandry was so extreme it bordered on a phobia. Usually, I wouldn't pry into someone's deep-seated trauma, but after the body count she'd racked up, I wasn't feeling particularly empathetic. I was wounded, she whispered, her hand moving to the center of her chest. The hero left a scar on me, so deep it never healed. Ever since that day, just being near a man makes the pain throb. She pulled aside the fabric of her negligee. There, in the center of her chest, was something that hadn't been there a moment ago, a glowing crimson gem, a mana core. The hero wounded you then, Lady Roseanne. That's right. I'm a demon. Wait, hold on a second. Ha 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 ha. Sharon? Roseanne blinked, confused by my sudden outburst. I couldn't help it. I was laughing at myself. How could I have missed it? I should have considered this possibility from the start. Without the horns and the glowing core, demons looked remarkably human. And since they had already infiltrated the academy, it made perfect sense that they had access to illusion magic. It wasn't a human taming a demonic beast. It was a demon keeping a pet. The mystery wasn't a mystery at all. I was just overthinking it. I felt the metaphorical safety catch on my soul click off. I didn't need to sing. I didn't need to dance. I didn't need to act. There was a much simpler way to solve this problem, a way that involved a complete disregard for ethics, morals, and mercy. My favorite way. Oh, thank God, I whispered, my voice dropping an octave. That means I can just kill you. It was time for a little bit of the old ultra-violence. The truth often hides behind a mask of beauty, but the soul that seeks to deceive will eventually find that no disguise can withstand the light of reality. For when the veil is torn, only that which is truly earned remains to face the harvest. Chapter 11. The Valiant One. The moment Rose and Callisto laid eyes on the girl named Sharon Berner, she had fallen. It was a classic case of love at first sight, or at least the twisted version of it that existed in a demon's heart. At only 7 years old, the girl possessed a spirit of self-sacrifice and a bravery that didn't flinch even at the touch of a branding iron. Her beauty was undeniable, her voice like silk, and her dancing was a vision of grace that captivated everyone who watched. To Roseanne, perfection had finally found a human shape. Roseanne's intuition wasn't just a hunch. Her insight skill, a rare ability that allowed her to read the status and abilities of anyone she looked at, had confirmed it. She had checked everything, the girl's proficiency in song and dance, even her absolute purity. She was obsessed. If Sharon had been an ordinary girl, Roseanne would have simply severed her tendons and kept her as a broken pet, like the others. But she was convinced that if she could nurture a bond with this perfect creature, a love that rivaled even what she felt for her sister, the unhealing wound in her chest would finally stop throbbing. To that end, she decided to reveal her true self. Love, she reasoned, could not be built on lies. It was a decision born of pure, deluded selfishness, and it was the moment Rose and Callisto signed her own death warrant. Ha 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 ha. Roseanne blinked. What was so funny? Usually, when a human discovered they were in the presence of a demon, they were paralyzed by terror. Sharon was brave, sure, but laughing, to see the horns and the glowing mana core and react with mirth was unheard of. Sharon? Roseanne had seen women laugh in the face of death before, but that was the broken, hysterical laughter of a mind that had snapped. Sharon's laugh was different. It was a dry, mocking chuckle of someone who had just found an incredibly simple solution to a very annoying problem. Oh, thank God, the girl whispered, her voice suddenly dropping into a low, gravelly tone. That means I can just kill you. Alert, skill, acting has been seen through. The mechanical notification rang in Roseanne's head at the exact moment those words that should never have come from such a lovely mouth, reached her ears. Acting? Roseanne didn't even have time to process the warning. Sharon's hand blurred, lashing out directly toward Roseanne's mana core. It was impossibly fast, timed perfectly to catch her in the split second she had lowered her guard. But the hand never reached its target. With a deafening crash, the wall of the house exploded. A massive, black feared shape lunged into the room. Vites the Bone Eater, sensing its master was in mortal danger, had intercepted the strike and clamped its massive jaws onto Sharon's shoulder. TCH. I was hoping to end this the easy way, Sharon muttered, pinned against the floor. That wasn't a very funny joke, Sharon, Roseanne panted, her heart racing. Marnakor is a demon's life. To touch it so carelessly you need to be taught a lesson. Fights, I need to cool my head. Go play with her for a bit. Play with her. The beast understood the command perfectly. With a low, rumbling growl, it dragged the girl out through the hole in the wall and into the night. Once she was alone, Roseanne let out a shaky sigh. She blamed the hero. Everything was his fault. Her wound was acting up, and now Sharon was lashing out with murderous intent. If that man hadn't cut her, she wouldn't be in this mess. She funneled all her frustration and her thwarted desire for intimacy into a burning hatred for a dead man. It's not Sharon's fault, she told herself. She's just confused. She convinced herself the girl only acted out because the hero was gone. Humans were fragile, imperfect things. They only seemed strong when a freak of nature like a hero was leading them. Sharon was likely just overwhelmed by a sense of duty, thinking she had to take up the fight herself. It's okay, I won't hurt her, Roseanne whispered to the empty room. She'd broken every other woman she brought to her bed, but Sharon was different. She had to be handled with care. Once Fight snapped a few of her ribs and maybe an arm or two, the girl would understand her place. True love could wait until she was a bit more manageable. He's taking a long time, Roseanne muttered after a few minutes. What is that dog doing? Surely he hasn't killed her? She doubted it. Weitz was a loyal, disciplined beast trained by her sister, Alicia. He knew how to handle a warrior with a sacred armament without killing them. A 7-year-old girl should be no challenge at all. But the silence was stretching on too long. Growing impatient, Roseanne stepped through the ruined wall and out into the night of Dulgar village. Fights, get back here. Don't overdo it. The village was dead quiet. Most of the residents had been slaughtered or locked away, and the usual lanterns that marked this trade hub were dark. The night was a void, the stars and the thin sliver of the moon providing barely any light. The faint metallic scent of blood hung in the air, village blood, she assumed. She prayed she didn't smell silver hair and gold eyes among it. Fights, where are you? Answer me. Then she heard it. A wet, heavy dragging sound coming from the shadows. A shape emerged. It was a hound. Roseanne let out a huff of relief that quickly turned into a scolding sigh. There you are. I told you to teach her a lesson, not spend all night. Fights. The beast didn't respond with its usual low rumble of acknowledgement. Instead, a high-pitched, mocking voice drifted from the darkness. Woof, woof. Master didn't come to play, so I guess I just fell apart. Roseanne's breath hitched. The monster's body was a ruin. Its neck was twisted at an impossible angle, its 4 massive limbs bent back like broken twigs. Its lower jaw hung open, torn away from the bone like a snapped hinge. The powerful fangs that could crush plate armor had been hammered out, and the once mighty physique of the bone eater was now just a matted, bloody heap of fur and meat. The beast was very dead. What? How? Roseanne couldn't wrap her mind around it. She had spent years with Weitz. He was one of her sister's most elite hunters. He was supposed to be unstoppable. Man, these monsters are a letdown, a voice chirped. Sharon stepped into the moonlight, a wide, terrifying grin on her face. Stinks like a wet rug and gives almost zero skill experience. Don't you agree, Lady Roseanne? She looked like a demon playing dress up as an angel. You did this? Roseanne whispered. Are you kidding? It was the ghost of the hero. Sharon laughed, her golden eyes flashing with a predatory light. He just swooped in and saved poor little me from this nasty animal. The ghost of the hero, the mysterious force that had been systematically wiping out demon outposts. Its Roseanne's voice trembled as the realization hit her like a physical blow. You're the ghost. Gil, insight activated. Target, Sharon Burner title. Hero bingo, the girl said. The one who hunts the innocent often forgets that there is always a shadow longer than their own. For true justice does not always come with a trumpet's blast, but often arrives in the quietest of forms to reclaim what was stolen. Chapter 12. A Dreadful Awakening, the title of hero. It was a mantle the Demon King had fought with every fibre of his being to extinguish. The lineage of the hero was supposed to be passed down through blood. The logic of the demon race was simple. If the bloodline ended, the threat ended. No more heroes would ever rise to challenge them again. That was their conclusion. And yet, here was a tiny, adorable little monster, standing right in front of Roseanne, laughing as if that conclusion was the funniest joke she'd ever heard. A hero? Roseanne stammered. The insight skill didn't lie. The title floating above Sharon's status was identical to the one held by the man who had left a permanent, agonizing crack in Roseanne's manhwa. Her skin crawled. Her wound began to throb with a rhythmic, stabbing heat she hadn't felt since her last encounter with the previous hero. A primal, Freezing terror crawled up her spine. The only reason Rosen didn't collapse into a pile of nerves was the sight of the girl herself. Sharon was tiny. She looked like a harmless, innocent child. She wasn't a grown man with a legendary blade. She was a girl, even younger than the ones Rosen usually broke for sport. I see, Rosen whispered, a delusional hope blooming in her chest. I get it now. Sister gave me this chance, didn't she? A chance to kill the hero and finally overcome this pain. Logic dictated that if a 7-year-old could tear a beast like Vites apart, she was a walking catastrophe for the demon race. If she wasn't dealt with immediately, she would become a nightmare they could never wake up from. I have to kill her now, Rosen decided. It was a sound tactical move. A chance? Sharon spat. Her voice was a jagged rasp that made her look like a wolf in a doll's dress. You really think a piece of trash like you gets a chance? Sharon moved before Rosen could even blink. She grabbed the mangled, heavy corpse of the demonic beast and hurled it. It was a weight no human child should have been able to lift, let alone throw with the force of a catapult. It was an opening move Rosen never saw coming. The mass of fur, blood and muscle slammed into Rosen. The sheer impact would have crushed a lesser demon instantly. Rosen gritted her teeth and held her ground, but the corpse of Vites couldn't take the pressure. It burst like an overfilled water balloon, showering the area in gore. Oh, Vites. Sharon didn't give her a second to mourn or even breathe. The moment Rosen's vision was obscured by the exploding remains of her pet, the girl was on her. A tiny fist, fueled by absolute murderous intent, slammed into Rosen's face. Just before impact, Rosen's insight skill flashed a warning. It read a list of abilities that made her blood run cold: unarmed mastery, brawling, and martial arts mastery. Every single one of them was at the maximum level. Even without a weapon, Sharon's hands and feet were lethal instruments designed for one thing: killing. The blow sent Rosen spinning through the air. She hit the ground and tumbled, the sheer force of the punch rattling her brain inside her skull. As she struggled to rise, she saw Sharon standing over her, cracking her knuckles. Gone was the noble, self-sacrificing girl. In her place was a thug with a predatory, bottom-tier gaze. Now that felt good. Sharon left a cruel, ugly sound. There's nothing better than putting a dent in the face of a scumbag who likes to break people. Don't you dare, Rosen hissed. She forced herself up, her pride wounded far worse than her jaw. Demonic armament unsheathed. She didn't hold back. There was no room for mercy against a hero. She reached into the void and pulled out her massive iron hammer, swinging it in a wide, desperate arc the moment her fingers touched the grip. Sharon hadn't expected a weapon to appear out of thin air. A pitch-black maul, swung with the full physical strength of an elite demon, caught the girl off guard. The head of the hammer connected squarely with Sharon's side. Rosen felt the impact travel up the handle, the sickening crunch of ribs shattering and organs being pulverized. A human body, regardless of its skills, was still just meat and bone. Against a heavy iron hammer boosted by demonic strength, there was no contest. Sharon's body, which weighed no more than an average 7-year-old, was sent flying like a rubber ball hit by a steel bat. She smashed through the walls of 2 nearby houses before finally coming to a stop somewhere in the wreckage. Is it over? Rosen panted. It felt too easy. After the legendary struggles of the previous hero, this felt pathetic. The girl was foul-mouthed and strong, but she was still fragile. She hadn't even drawn a holy blade to die from a single hit of a demonic armament. But then, a sound drifted from the ruins. Oh man, that's the stuff. I've never had this body broken quite that badly before. Sharon stepped out of the debris. It was sight out of a horror story. Her left shoulder and side were completely caved in. Flinters of wood the size of daggers were buried in her flesh. Her right leg was snapped at the shin, the bone jutting out through the skin at a nauseating angle. By all rights, she should have been dead 10 times over. Instead, she was wearing a wide, disgusting grin, looking at her mangled limbs as if they belonged to someone else. What are you? So that's a sacred armament, huh? Sharon asked, ignoring the question. I heard the academy gives those out, but I've been a bit delayed. Mind showing me how it really works? She reached down and yanked a massive wooden shard out of her chest. As she did, the wound sealed shut instantly. Her crushed torso began to pop and swell back into its original shape. Her broken leg snapped back into place with a wet, grinding sound, the skin knitting over the protruding bone in seconds. Natural regeneration. Pain dullness. Both maxed out. How many demons did she have to kill to get those levels? Rosen wondered, her hands shaking as she gripped her hammer. And she's doing all of this just to get a blade? Rosen knew she couldn't let this girl leave. The only advantage the demon race had over the new generation was their control over the sacred armaments at the academy. If a monster like Sharon got her hands on a holy blade, the war was over. She would turn the entire demon army into a pile of experience points. I'll show you how it works, Roseanne snarled. But the price is your life. Mana boost. Unlike most demons, Roseanne didn't use spells. Instead, she funneled the massive amount of raw mana stored in her core directly into her weapon. The iron head of the hammer began to glow with a dark, pulsating light as it transformed. Crush her, Hammer Maiden. Series of ports opened on the back of the hammer's head, venting dark energy like a rocket engine. Propulsion added a terrifying amount of speed to the already massive weight. It was a double-edged sword. The sheer G-force would tear the muscles of a human wielder to shreds. Roseanne could only handle it by diverting half her power to her own healing, and even then, she couldn't maintain it for long. Worse still, her mana core was already failing. The mana boost was shaving years off her life with every second it was active. She swung the hammer down with everything she had, a strike designed to turn the girl into a literal red smear on the pavement. Sharon just smiled. She reached up with one hand. Bang! The sound of the impact vibrated through the entire village, but Sharon didn't move an inch. She had caught the rocket-propelled iron head with her bare palm. What? Roseanne choked out. Bit too telegraphed, don't you think? Sharon asked. Her voice was terrifyingly calm. I wanted to see the weapon, but honestly, I'm more interested in seeing what happens to that busted mana core of yours if you keep pushing it. What happens to a demon when they run out of juice? Show me, Roseanne. Show me. For a demon, mana is like blood. If the core runs dry, the body fails. And no, Roseanne screamed, putting every ounce of her strength into the hammer. She pushed and pushed, her muscles screaming and her core burning. But the 7-year-old girl didn't budge. Sharon just stood there, leaning against the weight of the massive weapon, watching with an amused, leering grin. Roseanne realized then that she wasn't the predator anymore. She was the prey. True power is not a prize to be seized through arrogance, but a responsibility that weighs heavy on the soul. For the one who delights in the breaking of others will find that their own strength is but a fragile glass, destined to shatter when it meets a heart that has truly been forged in the fire. Chapter 13. The thug claims the sacred armament. I'll admit, it was a shock when she pulled that massive hammer out of thin air. When I actually took the hit, it practically turned half my body into mincemeat. That's a level of raw power I haven't seen from any of the run-of-the-mill demons I've hunted so far. But once I actually put up a defense, my own physical strength was more than enough to hold it back. She made such a big show of swinging the thing that I expected a bit more impact time. Honestly not sure if the weapon is a dud, or if the wielder is just pathetic. The test results are inconclusive. She called it mana boost, right? Sure. Using her own mana as fuel to supercharge a strike from a sacred armament is a neat trick, but I'm not about to let my life be the admission fee for such a cheap performance. In fact, if I don't take that weapon for myself, I don't think I'll ever be able to look at my reflection again. Har, the end came sooner than I expected. The jet-like flames of mana sputtering from the hammer's exhaust died down. Her grip failed, and Roseanne let the weapon thud onto the cobblestones. I thought I'd get to play a little longer, but it looks like she's run out of gas. She was pale as a ghost, drenched in sweat, her teeth chattering like a wind-up toy. Maybe it was the mana exhaustion, or maybe she finally realized what was coming, but she was hunched over now, looking up at me with watery eyes, as if begging for mercy. Running low on juice already, Lady Roseanne? Or do you have another ace up your sleeve? Look at me. I don't have a single scratch on me yet. Please, show me more. Please, huh? I'm sorry. I was wrong. Just please, spare my life. Well, that's a turn up for the books. Suddenly, she's apologizing. Why? I didn't ask for an apology. It's not like saying sorry is going to fix anything. Since I wasn't sure what to do with a confession, I decided to just kick her right leg and snap the bone. Gyre. Lady Roseanne, I think you've got the wrong idea. I don't think you've committed a crime at all. What? Think about it. Demons kill humans. It's what you do. It's as natural to you as breathing. So why apologize? You haven't done anything wrong. I had to be clear about this. Roseanne's actions weren't bad, and it's just as natural for me to kill you. So, I wasn't doing anything wrong either. If Roseanne were a human, this would be a vigilante execution and a legal act. That would be a problem. It goes against my law-abiding spirit. But fortunately, Roseanne is a demon, and a hero is meant to kill demons. That means no matter how defenseless she is, I can punch, kick, beat, strangle, and crush her until she stops moving, and it's all perfectly natural. It's not evil. Who can argue with the food chain? If you really want to talk about good and evil, you should ask the people she murdered, or maybe Roseanne herself, as she begs for her life. Good Lord, does that mean I'm the only pure, good person in this whole square? Being a hero is a heavy burden, isn't it? No, still, I suppose, if she's going to beg that hard, I should be a sport about it. I'm not a monster. I have good news for you, Lady Roseanne. Since you're the very first demon to bring me a sacred armament, I'll let you choose how you die. A choice to live? Don't be ridiculous. That was never on the table. You can either vent mana until you can't even spit up blood, or you can be a training dummy for my combat skills. Whichever one you don't pick is the one I'm going to use to torture you until you stop breathing. No, get away from me. You're not cute. I don't want you. Stay back. She really had a nerve, saying that after I'd essentially bought her from the merchant for free. I hate irresponsible owners who dump their pets the moment they get bored. You should take responsibility for your choices until the very end. That's a bit harsh, Roseanne. I thought we were going to love each other forever. Come on out. I just want to talk. I'm going to slaughter you just like I did that mangy mat. I called out to her as she scrambled into the regard estate, my voice relatively calm. Honestly, some people just don't appreciate affection. She didn't even have enough mana left to heal herself. I'd beaten her to the point where even an average human could probably finish her off. She was tougher than the others, but that just meant she'd have more time to enjoy the agony. Stay back. If you take one more step, I'll kill these women. I hummed a tune as I stepped into the foyer. There was Roseanne, battered and trembling, trying to use the captives as a shield. Oh no, she's taking innocent hostages to save her own skin. Whatever will the hero do? Is that your grand masterstroke, Roseanne? Oh dear, hostages? That's so unfair, I chirped. And I didn't give a damn. Though what? Was the only logical response. If she killed them all, it actually made my life easier. Fewer people to link me to the ghost of the hero. Did she not notice that I'd let her run in here on purpose? If the hostages were a problem, I would have killed her in the street. The women in the room looked between the broken demon and the terrifying 7-year-old. Seeing my mercy in taking the brand earlier, they clearly thought I was their savior. Save us, one cried. People and their misunderstandings. Did they really think I was some icon of compassion just because I took a hit for them? You want me to save you? From what? Exactly. Roseanne and the women all shared the same look of pure, hollow despair. It was almost poetic. This demon is on her last legs, I continued. Her mana is gone. Her strength and regeneration aren't much better than a human's right now. There are 10 of you. You can literally just walk away. I'm not saying you have to fight her, but surely you have enough courage to walk out the door. The kind of hero they were looking for, the one who would swoop in and save everyone while taking a blow for the team, is dead. I'm just a law-abiding thug. If you don't start a fight with me, I won't start one with you. I don't go looking for trouble, and I don't go looking to save people who won't even try to save themselves. But if someone shows a bit of grit, a bit of the will to live, I might be inclined to help. Just a little. No, don't touch me. Get off, Roseanne shrieked. She felt the shift in the room. If it had been 1 or 2 women, she might have held them, but she'd been greedy and taken 10. The women, fueled by a sudden, desperate realization, began to claw and pull at her. They dragged her toward me, foot by agonizing foot. You killed my brother. You murdered my father. Die, you monster. The air was thick with their curses as they delivered her to her funeral. I made a mental note never to end up like that. Help me, sister. Alicia. I didn't let her finish. I drove my hand straight into her chest, my fingers piercing through flesh and bone until they closed around her mana core. Don't you worry, Lady Roseanne, I whispered. I'll be sending your sister to join you very soon. Crack. The sensation of the core shattering was better than any drug. Killing demons really is the best feeling in the world. Gil, acting has reached its maximum level. Acquisition confirmed. Sacred armament. Hammer Maiden, the sun and the moon. The cold, mechanical voice in my head delivered the news as Roseanne's life faded away. The weight of one's actions is the only true inheritance we leave behind. For a hand that only knows how to take will find itself empty when the time comes to give, while the soul that guards its integrity finds a treasure that no thief can steal. Chapter 14. The thug meets the teacher, and so the wicked demon who had terrorized Dulgar village was brought to justice, and the survivors were saved by a brave, adorable little girl. At least, that was the story. Most of the men were dead and several houses were in splinters, but cleaning up the mess wasn't my job. I was far too busy trying to figure out the controls on my new, pre-owned hardware. As usual, the credit for killing Rosen went to the ghost of the hero, with only 10 village girls as witnesses. Getting our stories straight was easy. No one was going to believe a 7-year-old squirt had taken down a high-ranking demon anyway. This incident wasn't going to link me to the ghost rumors anytime soon. The biggest surprise, though, was the merchant. Despite my warnings, he'd actually grown suspicious of Roseanne's proxy act. In just one day, he'd sniffed around, confirmed that Lord Regard and his carriage were missing, and realised there was no such representative. He came charging back into the village at dawn, fully aware he was walking into a death trap. "I'm so sorry, little lady," he cried, nearly frantic. "I can't believe I left you all alone in a village run by one of those monsters. Are you hurt? Did she do anything to you?" The merchant was so rattled he started patting me down like a frantic parent checking for broken parts. "That tickles, sir," I giggled, playing my part. "Really, I'm fine. Please don't worry. A very powerful person came to my rescue, so see, not a single scratch." I decided to keep the part about the branding iron to myself. It was basically just aggressive acupuncture anyway, and my body didn't even leave a scar. As for the surviving women, their mental state was a mess, but physically they were unharmed. I'd ended Roseanne before she could start her festivities. I'm not usually the proactive type, but I couldn't help a dry inner smirk at the thought of accidentally doing something so heroic. "Would you mind sharing that story with us as well?" I thought things would quiet down once the dust settled, but right on cue, the leader of a very imposing group decided to barge into our conversation without so much as a "by your leave." There were about 10 of them, dressed in outfits that looked like a cross between a military uniform and a private school blazer, very much like something out of a video game. Then again, in a world where skills and sacred armaments are actual things, I guess I shouldn't knock the fashion. Compared to me, the merchant, and the villagers, they looked like they belonged to a different species. At the front stood a tall woman. She wore a cloak embroidered with gold thread that snapped in the wind, and she carried herself with a sharp, commanding air of a headmistress. "And who might you be?" I asked. I really wish people would introduce themselves before demanding floor time. "I'm a 7-year-old girl. It wouldn't take much for me to make any adult here look like a predator if I started crying." "Forgive my late introduction," she said, her voice smooth and professional. "I'm Natasha Frigger. I'm a teacher at the Galileo Academy of Magic. I've been sent here to investigate the reports of a demon attack and the rumors of this ghost of the hero who supposedly repelled it. I'd like to hear your version of events." "I see, so that's how it's going to be." Still, they were fast, way too fast. "And why was the school sending out investigators for a massacre?" "Well now, it is an honor," the merchant cut in, stepping forward to physically shield me with his bulk. "I'm Adam Dot of the Dalian Trading Company. You must be exhausted after the journey from the capital. I'm happy to answer whatever you need." "Nice move, big guy. I'll be sure to use him as a meat shield again in the future." "Mr. Dort, is it?" the woman asked. "I've spoken to the survivors. They say every man in the village was slaughtered. Are you a survivor as well?" "Oh, no, I'm this girl's guardian. To my eternal shame, I was tricked by the demon and left the child behind. I've heard the full account of what happened, so please, direct your questions to me. Let the girl rest." "I'm afraid I can't do that," Natasha replied firmly. "With the hero gone, the Kingdom of Vasion cannot afford to be distracted by ghost stories. For the sake of our national security, I need the primary account. I'm sure you understand." A lone merchant didn't have much leverage against the state, especially when facing someone from the academy. This wasn't some suspicious proxy who had appeared out of nowhere. This was a woman with actual status. At least, that would be the case if the academy wasn't secretly run by demons. "It's okay, sir," I said, stepping out from behind him. "She's a teacher from the academy, right? For the sake of those who suffered and for the people killed by the demons, I want to talk." "Little lady," he sighed, looking torn. I appreciated his concern, but this was my territory now. "I'm sorry to press you while you're still recovering," Natasha said, offering a small, practiced smile. "I appreciate your cooperation. Now, your name was Sharon Berner. It's a pleasure to meet you, Professor Frigger." "My, how polite. You don't have to call me Professor, you know." "Oh, but I must. My dream is to become a warrior one day." "Lies, all lies. I'm the actual hero, and you're standing right in front of me." Did she really think the same trick would work twice? Did she think her idiot sister hadn't screamed her name in front of the witnesses? Apparently, pretending to be human is all the rage in the demon world lately. "If you really wanted to fool me, lady, you shouldn't have picked such a pretty face. Specifically, Elysia, Callisto, You look way too much like your sister. But, Professor Frigger, I have some things to tell you about the ghost of the hero. Things I'd rather not say in front of everyone else are secret." Then she purred. "Very well. Everyone stay here and continue surveying the village. I'll speak with the girl privately." I wasn't going to kill her just yet, but I was definitely going to make her play along with my little game. A mask of virtue can hide a heart of stone, but the one who walks in deception often forgets that the sharpest eyes belong to those who have already seen through the dark. For the truth does not need a stage to be heard, only a soul that refuses to be silenced. Chapter 15. The price of the hunted had been 1 full day since Roseanne descended upon Dulgar village. The scheduled report was late. I wondered if she was simply too busy playing with her new human toys, or if the village had more men than we anticipated. I wasn't truly worried. I knew Kane and Roy, the 2 warriors I'd sent to guard the village, were no match for her. By now, they were surely nothing more than a meal inside Fights the Bone Eater. On my end, I was busy managing the rigged war, shuffling my pieces human trainees and mid-tier demons like a grandmaster at a chessboard. To me, this conflict was a solitary game. Occasionally, a pawn fell off the board on the human side, but that was expected. If you throw enough people into the lake where the sacred armaments are born, new warriors will always crawl out. As long as I controlled the power balance, a few losses meant nothing. The only real variable on my board was the irregular, the mysterious threat known as the ghost of the hero. Reports of sudden, devastating attacks had been cropping up like a trail of breadcrumbs leading straight to the holy capital of Londonmal. 3 outposts and several villages had been wiped out. I'd hoped this latest mid-scale raid would draw the ghost out into the open, but then Professor Frigger, a messenger, had said, pulling me aside, "We have a strange report from Dulgar village." I remember focusing on my breathing, keeping my voice perfectly level. "A strange report?" "Yes, ma'am. There are men in the neighbouring towns asking questions about a woman claiming to be a proxy for the elder of Dulgar. It doesn't seem to be related to the ghost of the hero, but how should we proceed?" Damn it, Roseanne, I thought. My little sister had left her tail hanging out. I suppose I was a failure as an older sister for being unable to discipline her properly. At the very least, I should have instructed Fights to eat everyone who entered the village except for the girls. Dulgar village, is it? Kane and Roy were supposed to have that under control. If they failed to keep the peace, something must be wrong. Professor Thermiro, I'll leave the tactical command here to you. I'm taking 10 students to investigate. Alec Thermiro, or rather, the Crimson Minister known as Vanus Lilac, didn't bother to agree or disagree. He just flashed a look of pure annoyance and waved me off as if telling me to get out of his sight. If he wanted more respect, he should try actually doing his job for once. When we arrived, Dulgar village was a graveyard. I wasn't surprised. To me, the destruction was simply proof that Roseanne had been working hard to heal her wound. The 10 student warriors following me, mere chicks, really gasped at the sight of the shattered homes and the hollow-eyed women wandering the streets. I wanted to tell them to toughen up. If they couldn't handle this, they wouldn't survive what was coming for them later. I began questioning the survivors. I expected to hear that Roseanne had finished her business and moved on, but I couldn't believe a single word that came out of their mouths. Because, really, how was I supposed to believe that a hero had returned to slaughter the demons? A hero? I asked, my voice tight. He's dead. I understand you're frightened, but clinging to the memory of a dead man won't help you. Now, calm down and tell me what really happened. It's true, a woman wailed, clutching my cloak. The girl saw him. She was right there with him. Ask her. The woman pointed toward a small girl sitting nearby, talking quietly with a man. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, younger than any of the students I had brought with me. She had long, shimmering silver hair and golden eyes that seemed to catch every scrap of sunlight. She was so beautiful, it was easy to see why Roseanne would have been obsessed with her. Even I felt a pang of admiration, but a cold dread began to settle in my stomach. I knew my sister. There was no way Roseanne would have left a girl like that behind to return to the estate. No, I told myself, it's impossible. Roseanne couldn't have been killed. Aside from the Demon King himself, she was the only one to survive a direct hit from the previous hero. She was my pride and joy. Even if the ghost of the hero had appeared, there was no way he could have taken down Roseanne and Vites together. Not unless he was the real thing. Sharon, I said, stepping toward the girl. This person who called himself a hero, what did he look like? He was the one who saved me from the female demon in the middle of the dark night. The girl whispered. Sharon Burner. That was her name. She led me through the village, and that was when I saw the true extent of the carnage. He was so strong, Sharon said, pointing to a pile of dark matter. This monster used to be huge, but when the hero threw it, it just sort of hit the ground and broke into pieces. I stopped breathing. There, scattered across the dirt, were the remains of the noble, pitch-black demonic beast, Bites the Bone Eater, my pet, my family. He had been pulverized so thoroughly that it was impossible to tell where the beast ended and the half-digested human remains began. I felt like I was going to be sick. My demon physiology, which rarely required much food, suddenly wanted to reject everything inside me. Ow, how could anyone do this? And more importantly, what kind of monster possessed the sheer malice required to unmake a creature like this? Then, a sharper terror pierced me. If this happened to Bites, what did this monster do to my sister? Professor Frigger, you're very pale, Sharon said softly. Are you all right? Sharon, don't you feel anything looking at this? I'd be lying if I said I didn't, the girl replied. Her voice was flat, devoid of the emotion a child should feel. But I watched what the hero did to that female demon. After seeing that a dead animal doesn't seem like much of a big deal. What the hero did, the phrase echoed in my head, cold and sharp. I felt my rage cresting, a black tide threatening to swallow my composure. The only thing that kept me from screaming was my pride as a Crimson Minister. What I managed to choke out. What did the hero do to her? I had to know. As her sister, I had to know what happened to Roseanne. Do you really want to hear it? For a split second, I thought I heard a flicker of amusement in Sharon's voice. I looked at her, but her face was a mask of sorrow, as if she were on the verge of tears. I must have imagined it. I was losing my mind. This way, Professor, Sharon said, taking my hand. She led me into the Elders Manor the Regard estate. We walked into a room that looked like a war zone, and there, on the wooden floor, I saw the faint, shimmering outlines of a struggle. I've never seen anything like it, Sharon whispered, her voice hauntingly clear. I didn't know that if you took the red stone from a demon's chest, their body just turned to ash like that. A demon leaves no corpse. When the mana core is destroyed, we vanish, as if the world itself is trying to forget we ever existed. But to have the core taken, that is a fate worse than death. Sharon sat in the corner of the room, hugging her knees, her voice drifting out like a ghost. The hero told me to watch. He said that if anyone came asking about the ghost, I should tell them exactly what I saw. He started by breaking her arms and legs. Every time she tried to heal them with her magic, he'd just snap them again, over and over. And then he did things. Horrible, violent things. He was so big, and she was so small I could hear her bones cracking every time he moved. Stop, I whispered. He got bored after a while, I think. That's when he started using the knife. He cut holes in her and, well, you can imagine, she must have had a family, right? Because the whole time she was screaming, she kept calling for her sister. Sister, help me. Sister, where are you? But her sister never came. I'm an only child, but I don't think I could live with myself if I'd let that happen to a little sister. Stop it, I shrieked. The imagery flooded my mind. I could see it. I could hear Roseanne's voice, crying out for me, believing in me until the very last second, while that monster tore her apart. I'm sorry, Sharon said, her voice small and trembling. I shouldn't have told another woman something so awful, but it was too heavy for me to carry alone. She didn't mean it as a jab. I knew she didn't, but her words felt like a serrated blade across my heart. Behind Sharon's voice, I could hear the echo of my sister's final scream. You left me to die, sister. Now you have to live with what they did to me. The seeds of deception we sow in the hearts of others often grow into a harvest of thorns for our own souls. For the one who plays with the lives of the innocent will eventually find that the sharpest pain is not the wound of a blade, but the weight of a conscience that woke too late. Chapter 16. To those who cradle the holy blade, let's get one thing straight. I'm Monica Housel. I'm a total transplant in this world. And yeah, I'm fully aware that I've ended up inside the universe of To Those Who Cradle the Holy Blade, or as the fan boards used to call it, the Cradle. When I first realized where I'd been reincarnated, the despair was basically bottomless. I mean, sure, everyone's had that idle thought once or twice. Man, it would be so cool to live in a video game world. But trust me, you don't want it to be this one. The Cradle is one of those games that's hailed as a masterpiece of storytelling, but actually living as a character in it, it's a nightmare. Even the main cast gets put through the ringer. So imagine being a background character like me. The series is a 3-part epic. Protagonist of the first game, the one everyone calls the original hero, is a legend in this world. That's the chapter of the blade, a classic starting point that ends in a total gut punch. The hero lands a lethal blow on the Demon King, but fails to actually kill him. Instead, the hero and his entire party are wiped out, and the demons make off with the holy blade. The second game follows a girl at the Galileo Academy of Magic. Her name is Lena Ashbourne. At first, she's just an average student, but she eventually gets propped up as the new hero. That part of the story is known as the Chapter of Lies. Lena's path to glory is paved with tragedy. She's originally from a place called Dulgar, and her story truly begins when a demon named Roseanne Callisto murders her older sister. Consumed by rage, Lena hunts down Roseanne and eventually evolves into the terrifying force of nature known as the hero's ghost. The catch: that whole bloody journey was actually orchestrated by our very own Professor Natasha Frigger, who is actually the Crimson Minister, Alicia Callisto. Her motive was simple: cold-blooded revenge for her own sister's death. Look, I'm not saying either side was right. They both did some pretty monstrous things. But when you're dealing with the Callisto sisters, it's never about right or wrong. It's all about raw, ugly emotion. Since the second game is set at an academy, it has a lot of school life features. But the most depressing mechanic is definitely the hate system. If you spend too much time training with your allies or building deep bonds, the game flags them, and the demons target and kill them. It's a total garbage mechanic. There is a loophole, though. If you have enough points in your acting or disguise skills, you can hide your connections from the demons in sight and actually enjoy a bit of romance without getting your girlfriend murdered. The problem is that some characters are just naturally terrible at acting, so they end up as permanent fixtures on the casualty list. Leaving the dating sims aside, there are 3 major things I need to handle right now. First, Roseanne Callisto must not be killed. Second, Lena's sister must stay alive. This is what we call fixing the plot. The only reason Lena gets targeted by Alicia is because of the deaths of Roseanne and Lena's sister. If I can prevent those, I can keep us off the radar. I'm terrified of Alicia Callisto for a very good reason. She is monstrously powerful. She's the final boss of the Chapter of Lies for a reason, and she's easily one of the strongest among the Crimson Ministers. Provoking her is a one-way ticket to a very painful ending. As for Lena's sister, I've got a plan. It's a bit of a long shot, but I have a trump card specifically suited for a rescue mission like that. But the third point is the most important. Sharon Burner must never, under any circumstances, become the hero. The third game, the Chapter of the Hero, is where the player gets the most freedom, but it's also where the world can turn into a literal hellscape. You have to choose. Do you forgive the demons for everything they've done? Or do you go on a genocidal spree and wipe them out in the name of vengeance? Or do you just kill everyone human and demon alike to force a permanent graveyard silence onto the world? If I had been reincarnated as Sharon Burner myself, I wouldn't be worried. I know I'd never pick the kill everyone option, but I don't know what the version of Sharon in this reality will decide. In a game, you can just save and load until you get the ending you want. But out here, this is real life. It's confusing to say it's a game and reality at the same time, but the bottom line is, there are no do-overs. Luckily, Sharon's part of the story isn't supposed to start for another 8 years. She should only be about 7 years old right now. She has a pretty rough childhood, but I can't prioritize her yet. I have to keep my eyes on Lena. Come on, Monica Housel. I told myself, you're just a background character with no cheat skills, clinging to Lena's coattails. The least you can do is help us find a happy ending. Monica, is everything okay? You've got that solving a math problem look on your face again. Oh, yeah. I stammered, snapping out of my trance. I was just thinking about how busy school's been. I haven't written home in a while. What about you, Lena? Have you heard from your sister lately? Of course. I sent her a letter yesterday, and I'm writing another one today. Geez, give the girl a break. That's a bit much, don't you think? In the original game's mechanics, those letters actually served as the save points before the Dulgar massacre. Just thinking about it gave me the creeps. It was a beautiful spring afternoon. We were walking through the town near the Galileo Academy of Magic, and Lena, who probably has some kind of intuition skill, kept glancing at me with concern. It's funny, as an original character named Monica who didn't exist in the game, I've done pretty well for myself. I've managed to become best friends with a main character. I wonder if I'd even have an official character portrait if this were still a game. If only I had a cheat skill to go with it, or at least a decent sacred armament. I have a bit more mana than the average person, but that's about it. The holy capital of Londimel is the heart of the Holy Kingdom of Asian, which makes it the safest place in the world. Even with the demons getting aggressive at the borders, the city was still bustling and vibrant. If you can ignore the fact that the school's leadership is infested with demons. It's actually a pretty comfortable place to live. Oh, there's Professor Frigger. Hey, Professor. My heart skipped a beat. Either Lena's detection skill is off the charts, or she just has eagle eyes. Probably both. She had managed to spot Natasha Frigger in the middle of a crowded thoroughfare. I finally spotted her too. Yeah, there she was, a woman whose beauty practically glowed compared to the common of faces around her. Character designs really are something else in this world. I wonder if I can put in a request for an upgrade. Actually, now wasn't the time for jokes. I immediately ducked behind Lena, using her as a shield. Honestly, Monica, stop it. Professor Frigger isn't scary. Why are you so nervous around her? Listen, Lena, you're an honest student. You don't get it. For us bottom-tier students, the gaze of a professor is like a spotlight on a crime scene. Got it? Really? Is it that bad? It's exactly that bad. The last thing I wanted was to be noticed by anyone on the Galileo Academy staff. But thanks to Lena's waving, Professor Frigger had spotted us. I doubted this alone would put me on a hit list, but my survival instincts were screaming at me to run. Girls, what perfect timing, the professor said as she approached. She gave us a warm, elegant smile that hid a jagged darkness. I wonder if I could ask a small favor of you both. A favor? These kinds of side quests happened all the time in the game, but I didn't remember this one. We'd be happy to help, Professor. Lena chirped before I could even open my mouth. What do you need, Lena? You sweet, naive girl, I groaned internally. I would have at least tried to negotiate for extra credit or just made an excuse to leave. Thank you, Lena. And you too, Monica, the professor said. The favor is simple. I'd like you to escort this young lady back to the academy for me as, if on cue, a small figure stepped out from behind the professor's cloak. The moment I saw her, the air left my lungs. My name is Sharon Berner. It's so nice to meet you, big sisters. Wait, no, this is wrong. I stared at the girl with the silver hair and golden eyes. What is she doing here? She isn't supposed to show up for another 8 years. We often believe we are the authors of our own stories, meticulously planning every turn of the page, yet we forget that the ink is held by a higher hand. For when the script we know by heart begins to blur, it is a reminder that true wisdom lies not in knowing what comes next, but in trusting the one who designed the journey. Chapter 17. The thug arrives. The journey from Dulgar village to the holy capital of Londonmal was, for the most part, incredibly dull. Not a single monster or member of the demon race crossed our path, excluding Alicia, who was sitting right next to me, so I was forced to keep up my performance as a traumatized girl who miraculously survived a massacre for days on end. The warriors escorting the carriage weren't exactly a barrel of laughs either. Apparently, the two guys who had been guarding Dulgar were pretty well known, and several of the escorts had been friends with them. Since the demonic beast had eaten every scrap of their remains, there wasn't even a memento to recover. My glorious path to the academy felt more like a funeral procession. The most depressed person in the group, naturally, was Professor Frigger, or rather, Alicia. I kept hearing the others whispering about it. Poor professor. She actually taught those two, or losing students is always harder on the teachers. It took everything I had not to burst out laughing. This woman was literally mourning her sister, who had been slaughtered after murdering those very students. Honestly, if I didn't have my acting skill maxed out, I would have been in trouble. I almost wanted to pat her on the head and tell her it's okay. Would she like that? Probably not. But I bet her sister, who died like a pathetic dog, would have loved the irony. Oh, and just so you know, I burned Rosan's clothes and boots to keep the campfire going. It wasn't even that cold, but there's nothing like a nice fire to soothe a weary soul. Professor Frigger spent half her time frantically searching the village ruins for clues about the demons, but I had already made sure there was nothing left to find. Speaking of things left over, I happened to find a fragment of a red stone in the dirt, which I've tucked away in my pouch. It's a little souvenir to mark the day I got my first sacred armament. Maybe I'll turn it into a necklace and give it to Professor Frigger as a friendship gift one day. I'm sure she'd cry her eyes out. The fact that I had enough free time to imagine stuff like that tells you exactly how boring the trip was. Honestly, the merchant's wagon was more fun than this. After a journey long enough to make a 7-year-old worry about her posture, we finally reached the holy capital of Londonmal. I said my goodbyes to the merchant and his crew, who were surprisingly misty-eyed about it, and was officially handed over to the custody of Professor Frigger. I thought we were heading straight to the Galileo Academy of Magic, but Professor Frigger looked like she was about to trip over a pebble and collapse. The second she spotted 2 of her students in the city, she dumped me on them and disappeared. Seriously, Do these sisters have a problem with finishing what they start? Wow. So you're Sharon. I'm Lena Sandalan. It's so nice to meet you. A beautiful redhead who looked about 15 or 16 beamed at me. She was wearing that weird mix of military uniform and school blazer, which meant she was a warrior, or at least an apprentice. Standing next to her was another girl who, frankly, had it a bit rough being positioned next to someone as pretty as Lena. She wasn't ugly, but she looked like she was trying too hard to disappear. She had short, curly brown hair and massive glasses that either hid a pair of droopy eyes or a lot of insecurity. If this were a classroom, Lena would be the one everyone's crushing on, and the other girl would be the maybe if I'm desperate option. Not that I care about romance, but that was the vibe. Hi, I'm Monica Housel. Nice to meet you. The other girl mumbled. Her smile was painfully awkward. Yikes, I thought. Let me show you how it's done. It's so nice to meet you both. Lena and Monica, you're like big sisters already. Take that. The power of a max level acting skill smile. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. Lena squealed. Sharon, do you want to be my actual sister? I have an older sister, but I've always wanted a little one. What do you think? Please? Nope. Or man, what is it with the women in this world and their weird obsession with me? I'm starting to think this body is a magnet for creeps. I really need to hit a growth spurt. No way. This isn't right. This isn't Sharon, Monica whispered to herself. She was staring at me with a look that said she knew something she shouldn't. Wait, what does she mean? This isn't Sharon. Is something wrong, Monica? I asked, tilting my head like a confused puppy. Oh no, nothing. Sorry, Monica stammered. She looked me up and down. So, Sharon, why exactly did you come here with Professor Frigger? Why did I come here? That's a weird way to phrase it. Normally you'd ask about my parents or the village. Well, my village was attacked by demons, I said, launching into the script I'd polished for the merchant and the professor. My mother passed away when I was little, and my father was conscripted and never came home. I heard that if I join the Galileo Academy of Magic as an apprentice, they'll take care of me until I graduate. So here I'm in Londamo. It was the perfect, pitiful but plucky orphan story. Everyone buys it. But Monica didn't blink. You didn't have to come to the academy, though, she said, her voice tight. A girl your age should go to a regular orphanage. Being a warrior isn't as glamorous as kids think. It's hard, painful work. Do you even get that? Monica, hey, Lena interjected. That's a bit harsh, don't you think? She wasn't just being a buzzkill. I could see the suspicion and a flicker of genuine fear in Monica's eyes. Wait, I thought, I'm a 7-year-old kid. Why are you so scared of me? I know it'll be hard, I chirped, doubling down on the act. But if I can get a sacred armament and kill demons, I can make sure no one else has to lose their family like I did. I'll work as hard as I have to. The truth was, I just wanted my own sword so I could turn the demons at the academy into a mansion of loot. Once I got what I wanted, I was out of this city. Lena, plans have changed, Monica said suddenly. Her voice was trembling. I'll explain later. But we can't take her to the academy. We're taking her to the outer gates. Right now. What? Monica, you're being crazy. Professor Frigger told us to take care of her. Do you really want to get on the professor's bad side? I don't care. Lena, look at her. She's 7 years old and talking about slaughtering demons. Does that seem normal to you? As they argued, my internal alarm started going off. Hold on. How do you know I'm 7? I hadn't told her my age. And the only reason she'd want to keep me away from the academy is if she was afraid of me getting a sacred armament. That meant she knew exactly what I was capable of, which meant she was someone who had been watching me, a member of the demon race. Perhaps? Well, Monica Housel, you're a lot more interesting than you look. A person's true nature is not found in the face they show the world, but in the choices they make when they believe no one is watching. For the heart holds secrets that only the divine can truly weigh. Chapter 18. A private conversation in the original game. The personality of Sharon Burner was, well, the best word for it was detached. She was designed that way so players of the Book of the Blade and the Book of Lies could see the world of the cradle, its good and evil, its order and chaos through a neutral lens. In other words, she was a blank slate who never acted against the player's intent. She was a silent, passive-aggressive enigma. So, seeing her now grinning, chatting, and full of life felt like a massive error in the script. It was a total character assassination. I could practically feel a different soul vibrating inside her. Skill, insight activated. I triggered my insight skill, even though it wasn't particularly high level. Sharon's charisma stat was monstrously high, but according to the timeline, she shouldn't have had time to pick up any high-tier acting skills yet. The thing about insight is that your success rate drops the higher the target's charisma, and acting levels are compared to your own intelligence. Target, Sharon Burner. Title, Village Girl unaware of her fate. Then came the stats. Strength, agility, mana finita. They were all lower, in fact, than they were at the start of her actual story arc. I let out a long, shaky breath of relief. She had the stats of an average 7-year-old girl. I didn't know what kind of plot warping had happened while I wasn't looking, but Sharon getting a sacred armament was a major branch in the story. In the game, she's eventually forced into an ultimate choice after seeing the best and worst of humanity and the demon race, whether or not to claim her unique sacred armament. For players of the Book of Lies, demons are depicted as the ultimate villains, but they have lives too. They have families and children. I assumed this version of Sharon simply hadn't seen enough of the world yet to become the jaded protagonist I knew. Monica, seriously, what is wrong with you? Lena asked. She sounded genuinely annoyed. You're being way too pushy. I mean, sure, it's a bit brave for a kid this cute to want to hunt demons, but after what she's been through, I get why she wants to help. We're older than her, but that doesn't give us the right to write off her entire life as abnormal just because we're worried. Oh, here we go, I thought. Classic protagonist energy. I knew Lena's personality inside and out. I'd practically lived her life alongside her. I knew her likes, her dislikes, her past, and her future. That was how I'd managed to become her best friend. I knew she hated it when I acted like a bully, but even if I lost her trust, I couldn't let Sharon Burner get anywhere near the lake of selection. Say whatever you want, I muttered. Just let me handle the kid. Ugh, is this another one of your premonitions? Something like that. Because I'd used my meta-knowledge so often, everyone who knew me thought I was some kind of clairvoyant. Lena was no exception. I had no idea how I was going to explain this to Professor Frigger later. I couldn't think of a single excuse that would satisfy her and Lena at the same time. Lena Sandalan, junior warrior candidate, a voice barked, cutting through our argument. An elite warrior candidate was standing there, looking stern. You are summoned by the faculty regarding a matter involving your family estate. Return to the academy immediately. My family? Lena blinked, looking confused. Oh no, I'd been so focused on Sharon that I'd forgotten the timeline. If the plot was shifting, the main events might be triggering early. The massacre of Dulgar village by Roseanne was supposed to be unavoidable, but I was supposed to have a chance to save Lena's sister. Lena, go. Get back to the academy, I shouted. I'll take care of the girl. Wait, what? Monica, you promise you'll look after her? If I find out you were mean to her, I'll never forgive you. Yes, I promise. Not a scratch. Now move. I watched her sprint toward the academy. I was panicking. I'd let my guard down because Professor Frigger was around. In the game, the investigation into Dulgar was supposed to happen right after Roseanne returned to the estate. My only window to save Lena's sister was that brief moment when Roseanne was distracted. Listen, Sharon, I said, turning to the girl, you don't want to hang around here. It's boring. I'm going to take you to the city gates. And then I don't know, find a merchant wagon. Go live in a nice, quiet village. You're a pretty girl, go have an adventure. Haven't you ever heard that travel broadens the mind? I knew I sounded irresponsible and vague, but I didn't have time for her. Sharon was a ticking time bomb, sure, but Lena's sister was on a much shorter fuse. If she was taken back to the demon-controlled manor, she was as good as dead. I see, Sharon whispered. Her voice was flat. In that case, how about a little chat first? I didn't have time for a chat, but I didn't want the game's future protagonist to hate me, so I reluctantly agreed. Looking back, that was the exact moment I screwed up. Hey, you awake? A cold, gravelly voice, one that sounded way too mature for a little girl, snapped me back to consciousness. Then came the sting of a palm hitting my cheek. Once, twice, 3 times. Oh wait, what? I blinked, my vision swimming. What's going on? Where am I? I was looking up at a rotting ceiling. I could see the stars through the holes in the roof. Night? How long had I been out? You were out like a light, the voice mocked. I only gave your neck a little squeeze. You need to work on your cardio, sister. I hadn't fallen asleep. I'd been choked out. My neck throbbed as I tried to turn my head. I finally caught sight of my captor. Morning, Monica. No way. My brain refused to process the reality in front of me. It was Sharon Burner, no doubt about it, but the voice, the sheer, crushing weight of her presence was entirely different. Sharon, could you maybe undo these chains? I asked, my voice trembling. They're really starting to dig in. I was pinned to a filthy bed, my limbs bound tightly by heavy iron chains. This was bad. I couldn't save Lena's sister or get Sharon out of the city like this. Wait. How did this even happen? I gasped. I was a warrior apprentice. I might not have been grinding for experience, because I didn't want the demons to notice me, but I was still strong enough to take down a couple of street thugs without breaking a sweat. And yet, a 7-year-old had choked me out, and now I was chained up in a shack. I was getting a migraine from the sheer amount of impossible information hitting me at once. And that voice, that way of speaking, that wasn't Sharon. What the hell was going on? I told you, Sharon said, leaning over me with a terrifying grin. We're going to have a chat. Oh, and don't bother lying. Don't try any funny jokes either. They just make everyone miserable. We're living in such a beautiful world, we should all try to be happy, right? I totally agree with the being happy part, I squeaked. But what happens if I lie or tell a bad joke? Curiosity killed the cat. I was about to find out exactly how that proverb felt. I hadn't really thought about it. Sharon used. She picked up a thick piece of cloth and pointed toward a large barrel of water in the corner. Maybe we can play a little game of house with these. I stared at the cloth and the water. My blood turned to ice. I thanked my past self for watching so many military thrillers, while at the same time wishing I'd never learned what waterboarding was. The knowledge became a physical weight, crushing my chest. I think that's called torture. Sharon, no, don't be like that. Monica, she chirped, giving me a radiant, adorable smile that didn't reach her eyes. Think of it as enhanced interrogation. The path of truth is often narrow and steep, yet the one who walks it with a clear heart finds a peace that no light can provide. For the shadows of deception may hide the face, but they can never extinguish the light of a soul that seeks the light. Chapter 19. Rupture. Now then, where should we start? How about this? Why exactly are you trying to keep me out of the Galileo Academy of Magic? You're just a warrior apprentice. You don't have the authority to block anyone. And you certainly don't have a good reason, do you? Sharon's voice was high-pitched and sweet, but it carried a chill that seemed to seep into my very bones. Depending on how you played the game, you could make her a cold character, but in no version of the story was Sharon ever the type to stoop to this kind of systematic torture. Please, Sharon, remember who you are. You wouldn't really do this. I know you're a kind girl at heart. I know it. I was clinging to a faint, desperate hope that the protagonist of the third installment of To Those Who Cradle the Holy Blade simply couldn't be a monster. That hope was met with a literal bucket of ice water. Before I could even blink, a heavy cloth was slapped over my face, and a torrent of water came crashing down like a waterfall. I didn't even have time to gasp. The soaked fabric clung to my nose and mouth, instantly sealing them. My entire world was suddenly submerged. MMMPH. I couldn't breathe. I thrashed, trying to claw the cloth away, but the iron chains binding my arms and legs only let out a mocking, metallic jangle. I tried to scream, but water rushed into my throat the moment I opened my mouth. I was going to die. I'd faced monsters since being reincarnated, but I'd never felt a terror quite like this. For what felt like an eternity, the cold water kept coming, soaking through the cloth and into my lungs. Just as my vision started to fade to black, the cloth was ripped away. I retched, coughing up water and gasping for air as if my life depended on it, which, clearly, it did. Oh, did you think I was joking? That's a funny joke, Sharon chirped. She was smiling, but her eyes were like two pieces of yellow glass. I had a great time, so I let you up after only 30 seconds, but next time, if you say anything other than the answer to my question, I'm adding 10 seconds to the clock. Every single time. She called it fun, but there wasn't a hint of humor in her gaze. To make a long story short, after I'd bought myself an extra 20 seconds of drowning, I broke. I told her everything. A reincarnator, huh? Sharon stared at me with a look of pure, icy disdain, while her hand rested casually on the edge of the water barrel. My body gave a violent, involuntary shudder. After 3 rounds of near-death experiences, the mere sight of that barrel made me recoil. I don't think I'll ever be able to forget the suffocating weight of a wet rag. It's the truth, I swear. Please, just believe me. So, to summarize, Sharon drawled, this world is actually a 3-part video game series called To Those Who Cradle the Holy Blade. I'm the main character of the whole thing, and you're just some background nobody. You knew my age before we met because you've played my life, and you want to keep me away from the academy, because if I become the hero, it leads to some genocide ending. Did I get that right? Man, it's a real tragedy. Be killing all those kind demons. After the 3 rounds of torture, her mask had completely shattered. Her tone was rough, her language foul. She was a complete departure from the Sharon Burner I knew from the games, but I felt a small spark of relief. She seemed to understand the risk of a bad ending. She understood that I was trying to save people. You have to understand, Are you an idiot? Sharon interrupted. Is your brain so empty you need me to fill it with more water? Bottom of the barrel thudded against the floor as she tilted it toward me. The memory of drowning hit me like a physical shock. While you're tucked away in your bed dreaming of a happy ending, the demons are out there butchering humans, she snapped. Even if I believe your little fairy tale, how many people have to bleed while we wait for your perfect finale? Oh, wait, I forgot. The people dying right now are just mobs. So who cares about them, right? Those are necessary sacrifices. I cried. Really? Could you say that to the people about to die? Hey, could you guys mind being slaughtered by the evil demons, so the nice demons don't get hurt by the future hero? You reincarnators are something else. Who gave you the right to decide who gets to live and who's a necessary sacrifice? She was dragging the reality I'd been avoiding into the light. I'd been looking at the world as a trolley problem, and I'd been pulling the lever to crush the majority every single time. Why? Because no matter how many mobs lived, it didn't count toward the happy ending. I'd witnessed tragedies and done nothing. I hadn't even whispered a warning, fearing that any small change would ripple out and ruin my perfect plan. In a game, I could have used save and load to find a way to save everyone, but this was reality. There was no pause menu. Time moved in one direction, and there were no do-overs. I was so terrified of making a mistake that I'd only dare to interfere at the crucial moments. I didn't have the courage to try and save everyone. The funniest part is that you've included your own safety in the bill, Sharon mocked. She sat down on the edge of the bed, her weight pinning my legs. She felt like an average 7-year-old girl, but the pressure was suffocating. You figured if you stayed next to Lena, you'd be safe. You didn't level up so the demons wouldn't notice you. You tried to save Lena's sister without fighting, because you wanted minimum risk. And yet, you're fine with other people dying? You're a mob too. You hypocrite. You don't understand. I haven't been doing anything dangerous, because I can't. I screamed. Look at your stats. You haven't taken a single scratch. It's easy for you to talk when you're... Sharon blinked in surprise for a second, then looked down at me with a pitying expression that hurt worse than the water. Don't you ever group me with you, she whispered. Sacred armament unsheath. With a single word, a weapon materialized out of the void. It was a long-handled iron hammer. I recognized it instantly. The hammerhead decorated with a woman's profile, the mechanical exhaust ports for mana propulsion. There was no way I didn't know it. It was one of the most important items in the Book of Lies. My first critical objective. Roseanne Callisto must not be killed, because if Roseanne dies, her sacred armament is dropped as loot, the weapon known as the Hammer Maiden. How do you have that? I gasped. I didn't want to hear the answer, but I already knew it. I killed her and took it, Sharon said simply. Obviously, she had killed her. That meant my plot fixing had been a failure from the very beginning, and more importantly it meant we had already triggered the one thing I was terrified of. We had officially incurred the wrath of a crimson minister. We often imagine ourselves as the masters of destiny, choosing which lives hold value, and which are but shadows in our grand design. Yet we forget that every soul is a universe unto itself, and the moment we weigh one life against another, we have already lost the very humanity we claim to protect. Chapter 20. The Ghost's Path. Roseanne is dead. The news was a jagged pill that even a demon found hard to swallow. If the messenger hadn't been Alicia, Vanessa Lilac wouldn't have believed a word of it. In terms of sheer durability, Roseanne had been a match for any of the Crimson Ministers. She had taken a direct hit to her mana core from the previous hero and lived to tell the tale. Sure, the strike had left her with a permanent, agonizing scar, but she wasn't the kind of demon who would lose to a mere human. If she just healed up and killed a few more warriors, she would have had a seat among the Crimson Ministers eventually, Vanessa thought bitterly. It was no secret that Vanessa and Roseanne didn't get along. Hostile was a better word for it. As fellow high-ranking demons and colleagues at the Galileo Academy of Magic, they saw more of each other than most. Roseanne had loathed him, mostly because Vanessa was a man. She hated men on principle, but she saw him as a pest, an obstacle standing between her and her beloved older sister. Vanessa had once joked to Alicia that he expected to be kicked to death by her sister any day now. In contrast, Vanessa didn't hate Roseanne. Anyone with the toughness to survive a hero deserved respect. Besides, he wasn't petty enough to hate the sister of the woman he loved, no matter how much of a headache she was. The hatred had been entirely one-sided. Vanessa knew that if he got too close to Alicia, Roseanne would suffer, and if Rosen suffered, Alicia would be heartbroken. He was the kind of man who would gladly step back if it meant keeping those two from hurting. "It's my fault," Alicia wailed. "I was the only one who could have stopped her. I underestimated the ghost of the hero. To die like that so brutally, what did she ever do to deserve such a thing?" Nothing, Venice thought. She did absolutely nothing. To a demon, killing humans was as natural as breathing. Most of their kind believed that they didn't even owe a hero that abnormal stain on existence an explanation for their actions. Vanice was no different. When he'd helped Alicia send human women to Rosen, he'd done it as a small gesture of comfort, like buying a stuffed animal for a sick child. If the women had their tendons cut to stop them from running, or if they were slaughtered because they were pregnant, it didn't matter. In his eyes, it was no different from snipping the price tag off a toy or throwing away a doll that didn't fit the collection. Sure, Rosen had been emotionally unstable, but he considered that a personality quirk. Before the hero had scarred her, she'd been arrogant, yes, but her hatred of men hadn't been a pathology. She'd even been capable of showing a bit of common sense and kindness to younger demons. If killing humans was a sin, then how many demons would have to die to balance the scales? In Vanice's mind, the only one who deserved punishment was the hero, and that hero had been killed by the Demon King. Justice had been served. She had her whole life ahead of her, he thought, and now it's gone. Vanice reached up and removed his hat, a rare gesture for a man who never took it off, even indoors. He stood there in silent mourning, his long hair tied back loosely. With his trimmed beard and sharp, piercing eyes, he looked like a frontier lorman out of an old story, but in this moment, he was just a man grieving a loss. "Alicia, no words will make this better, but Rosen's death isn't on you. She was calling for me," Alicia sobbed. "Until the very end, she was screaming my name. Tony, I'd been there if you'd been there. She'd be alive." Vanice thought, well, there's no point in thinking like that. Regret was a pit with no bottom. If you started stacking what-ifs, they'd eventually climb high enough to block out the sun, and the weight of them would pin you to the ground forever. Alicia knew that, but the image of her sister's remains on that floor and the horrific story Sharon had told about her final moments was too much to bear. It was a testament to Alicia's mental strength that she could even maintain her cover as a teacher in front of her students. Vanice hadn't expected to see her like this. Alicia was one of the strongest Crimson ministers, a woman with no apparent weaknesses, and yet here she was, collapsing into his arms, broken and hollow. It showed just how much her sister had meant to her. "I didn't want you to need me like this, Alicia," he thought sadly. He didn't have a single predatory thought about using her vulnerability to get closer to her. His love for Alicia and his affection for Rosen were the only things that softened his dry, cynical life. When Vanice, a man who usually played the role of the lazy either, decided to move, it was always fueled by a cold, calculating fury. "Save the regret for later," Vanice said, his voice dropping an octave. "First, tell me everything you know about this ghost of the hero." "Leave it to me, Alicia. I'm going to put air holes in that bastard's arms and legs and drag him in front of you. He would do whatever it took." The ghost of the hero was a dead man walking. Killing someone who was already supposed to be dead would be the easiest job he'd ever had. Most demons would tremble at the mere suggestion that the hero had returned as a vengeful spirit. The scars that man had left on the race ran deep, but Vanice didn't blink as he listened to the details of the massacre at Dulgar Village. "A truly repulsive set of deeds," Vanice muttered once she had finished. "I'm sorry, I had to make you relive it, but thank you. I'll make sure the courage you and Rosen showed is rewarded. Please, Vanice, you're the only one I can turn to now. We're in this together. Even I get a bit of righteous indignation every now and then." The sheer cruelty of the ghost left Vanice momentarily speechless. He wondered if this creature was even the same gender as the previous hero. Just imagining Rosen's final screams in the face of such a monster made his own chest ache. "I've killed a lot of humans in my time," he thought, "but this is the first time I've actually wanted to enjoy the process." His gut told him the ghost of the hero wasn't the same person as the original. The original hero had been a man who killed without hesitation, but he usually did it with a single, clean strike. He wasn't a sadist who took pleasure in breaking his enemies. That realization brought a flicker of fear alongside the hatred. Alicia had said there was no sign of a sacred armament being used. That meant this monster had killed Rosen, a near match for a Crimson minister, with its bare hands. "We have to assume that Rosen's hammer, maiden and the two other sacred armaments from the village have been stolen," Vanice observed. It was a terrifying reality. Not only had a monster capable of killing an elite demon unarmed appeared, but it now possessed 3 legendary weapons. It was the kind of information that would cause a panic if it reached the other Crimson Ministers. There are too many of our kind looking to take Alicia's seat, Vanus realized. If I report this now while they're still skeptical about the ghost, they'll use Rosan's death to tear Alicia down. The ghost of the hero was a massive headache, but he needed a plan. Maybe he could bait the ghost by throwing a few of the more battle-hungry demons at it. But to do that, he had to find the monster first. There's one more thing, Alicia whispered. A girl named Sharon Burner was the last witness. Vanus, I need you to make sure she's enrolled at the Galileo Academy of Magic. Why? Wouldn't a simple interrogation be enough? No, that girl is the only legacy Roseanne left me. So, I'm going to raise her to be a magnificent warrior, and then I'm going to send her straight into that monster's path. If that was what Roseanne and Alicia wanted, Vanus wouldn't stand in their way. He let out a long, weary sigh, then offered a small, grim smile. Consider it done. True vengeance is a fire that consumes the one who carries it as much as the one it seeks to burn. For the soul that seeks to repay cruelty with more cruelty often finds that, in the end, it has only built a larger prison for its own peace. Chapter 21. A glimpse into the void. I first realized I was a violent person back in my previous life, around the time I was in the 4th grade. When you're a 9 or 10-year-old boy, life is usually a blur of games and playground scraps. Even when things got heated enough for fists to fly, it rarely ended in more than a few bruises or a scraped knee. I was a clever kid, too. I made sure my fights only happened when a responsible adult, a teacher, or a parent was nearby to break them up. Looking back, I didn't really understand why I played that game. Most kids avoid fighting in front of adults. We're taught that violence is wrong, that it's barbaric, and that both parties are equally to blame. Even a child's brain can grasp that. But after being reincarnated into this world, I finally understood my own instincts. I knew that if someone didn't stop me, I'd go too far. And in my old life, there was one time when I went much too far. It was what you'd call kidnapping. I saw a chubby man in a white van trying to force a young girl inside. To be honest, I never liked the girls in my class. They were loud and annoying. They'd huddle in the hallways, shrieking about some pop star or the latest viral video. They talked so loudly that I could hear every word even when I was trying to read in the back of the room. I barely considered them the same species as me. But when one of those loud voices screams help, you can't exactly tune it out, no matter how hard you try. Should I help? I wondered. Who, me? It was a sweltering summer afternoon. I was sticky with sweat and smelled like swimming pool chlorine. Just your average 4th grader witnessing a small rupture in the mundane fabric of reality. Run away from bad adults. That's what they teach you. The chubby man was definitely a bad adult. The girl he was dragging toward the van was the pitiful victim who hadn't run fast enough. Good adults always tell you to run. If I had just turned my back and walked away, my normal life would have been right there waiting for me. I should run. The logic was simpler than 1 + 1. For a 9-year-old, running away from a scary man is the only sane decision. If I found a phone and called the police, I'd even get a gold star for being a heroic student. But there was a hitch in my process. I didn't feel afraid of the man. My primary thought was, if I let this turn into a mess, I'm going to be stuck dealing with the aftermath. I was actually annoyed at myself for stumbling onto the scene. I could already see the hours wasted at the police station, the questioning, the gossip-hungry classmates pestering me for details. The mere thought of it was exhausting, but reality is a cruel thing and sometimes it's a very entertaining one. I caught the glint of sunlight reflecting off a kitchen knife in the man's right hand. It looked brand new, probably something he'd just picked up from a local shop for the occasion. It's rare to see a crime that impulsive these days, but impulsivity means it's a crime anyone could commit. This man, whether he was driven by lust or a desperate need for a ransom, had decided to use a common kitchen tool for a very uncommon purpose. The kidnapper locked eyes with me. What does a man in the middle of a frantic, amateur crime think when he sees a witness? Don't be scared, pal, I thought. I'm just a kid. Why don't we start with a greeting? Hello there, sir. That's a lively daughter you've got. The man let out a wordless, guttural roar. He shoved the girl away and lunged at me, knife in hand. I'm sure he was screaming something like, "Don't look at me, or I'll kill you." But it was the kind of dialogue that didn't require much intelligence to interpret. Well, this is a problem, I thought, a real problem, because in that moment, there was only a bad adult and a good kid. I doubt any other kid in my school took their ethics classes as seriously as I did. My classmates usually slept through them, or worked on their homework under their desks, or doodled in their notebooks. It made sense. They didn't need to be taught how to be human. They already knew the basic rules of society. Their disrespectful behavior was just a more efficient use of their time. But for me, there were questions far more difficult than 1+1. For example, is it wrong to kill a bad person? I suddenly felt a desperate urge to find the answer. Violence. Violence and, well, more violence. My body moved with a fluidity that surprised even me. It felt as if a heavy shackle I'd been wearing my entire life had finally snapped. It was incredibly refreshing. The man's body turned out to be an excellent textbook. Humans have these things called vitals, and apparently, if you hit them hard enough, even a grown man will crawl on the ground in agony. Ears tear off much easier than you'd think. Eyes and noses can be crushed with very little effort. I learned that while snapping a finger is easy, it's much more effective to twist the larger bones. As the distant sound of sirens finally reached my ears, I realized that for the first time in my life, I was actually enjoying myself. Seriously, stop smiling like that. I have no idea what's going on in your head, and it's terrifying. You're awfully picky for someone currently holding hands with such a beautiful girl, Monica, I chirped. Can I let go now? Not a chance. I'll kill you. After our little pool party and our subsequent bonding session, I decided to let Monica Housel escort me to the academy. There were plenty of reasons to keep her alive. I could have finished her off, but it would be the height of stupidity to throw away a source of future knowledge just because she tried to get in my way once. Of course, I wasn't going to believe a word she said blindly, but having some information inside the academy was better than having none. If she lied to me, I'd just have to remind her body what happens to unreliable sources. If she still wanted to trick me after that, well, she'd earn the consequences. Besides, she was human. Murdering a human was still a crime in this world. I could always find a way to have the demons do my dirty work for me, but unless she truly became a nuisance, I'd keep her around as a pet information broker. I'm so excited for school, I said, swinging our joined hands. How? Monica wailed. Her voice was thin and pathetic. There are demons everywhere, and now I have to live with a monster like you. It's over. This world is officially over. She seemed to be predicting a very grim finale based on her knowledge. I had to wonder, if this girl was supposed to be a member of the legendary Heroes Party, they were really scraping the bottom of the barrel for recruits. The darkness within a heart is not born from the shadows around it, but from the choices made when the light feels too heavy to carry. For the one who delights in the breaking of others has already broken the most precious thing they possess, their own mercy. Chapter 22. The Thug Gains Power. Galileo Academy of Magic was supposed to be a training facility for warriors, but it didn't look anything like the schools I remembered. Maybe it was the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of the uniforms, or the fact that several students were casually walking around with swords strapped to their waists. According to Monica, students whose sacred armaments don't have offensive capabilities are allowed to carry standard blades. Right. In other words, they were just bottom-tier losers. The school had an all-comers welcome policy for anyone with the resolve to kill demons, which led to a pretty wide age range among the warrior apprentices. Still, I didn't see anyone else who looked under 10. As I walked through the halls holding Monica's hand mostly to make sure the woman didn't bolt, I noticed the men were easily won over by my innocent smile. The women, on the other hand, mostly gave me sad, pitying looks. I guess they couldn't help but feel disgusted that a child this small was being taught how to slaughter monsters. Personally, I'm pretty sure I've killed more demons than most of the veterans here, but there's no point in winning a pissing contest over body counts. I have zero interest in spreading my own legend. Besides, hearing my sweet, melodic voice describe the gruesome deaths of their kin is a privilege reserved solely for the demons I'm currently murdering. There you are, Sharon Burner. Just as I was starting to get sick of the crowd, a man with a very peculiar look approached us. If I had to describe him in one word, it would be gunslinger. He looked like a stereotype straight out of an old western cowboy hat, duster, the whole bit. He peered at me from under the brim of his hat, his sharp eyes scanning me from head to toe. I could tell he was using insight. Honestly, what is it with everyone in this world and their obsession with peeking at a girl's secrets? No matter how hard you squint with those useless eyes, all you're going to see is a harmless little girl. I'm Alec Thermiro, he said. I handle the introductory magic classes and training for sacred armament proficiency. Professor Frigger told me about you. It sounds like you had a rough journey. I see, a teacher. No wonder Monica's hand was shaking. That meant this guy was a demon too. Perfect. This Monica woman was actually turning out to be a pretty decent censor. A card is like any other tool, you just have to know how to use them. Not at all, sir, I chirped. I want to be a warrior. I don't have time to mope around just because I was kidnapped for a little while. Besides, even if it wasn't the way I wanted, I was saved. After all, I see. Professor Frigger told me everything. Demons are a hateful lot, but even a monster shouldn't die like that. Professor was quite impressed by your resolve that you still want to be a warrior after witnessing such a tragedy. I had to pat myself on the back for the way I'd embellished Roseanne's death. By now, the demons hunting the ghost of the hero probably had some muscle-bound freak with a torture fetish at the top of their suspect list. Good luck finding a guy like that. If he actually exists, I'm sorry. I'll just repent for your sins while the demons do my work for me. Yes, sir, we have to defeat the demons, but I don't think we should make them suffer. That man who called himself the ghost of the hero, well, I'm glad he saved me. But killing like that is just wrong. Oh, absolutely wrong. I thought I should have been way more brutal. It's a shame their bodies just turned to ash. I want every one of you to spend your final moments terrified, seeing your own end reflected in my eyes, until you're nothing but a stain on a dirty floor. If you enjoy murdering humans, then by all means, keep enjoying it while you can. Just don't forget, as long as I'm breathing, you're all living on borrowed time. You're right, Alex said. The deeds of the demon race are unforgivable to humanity, but we must respect even the most basic dignity. That's what sets us apart from them. Basic dignity? I glanced up at Monica, wondering if she was going to laugh. Her face was ashen. Does she really sit through this guy's classes every day with that expression? The idea of a bottom-tier demon wearing a human skin while giving lectures on morality is a joke that'll be funny for 1,000 years. They don't deserve dignity, and they certainly don't deserve mercy. The only thing they're allowed to do is tremble every single day, wondering exactly how the hero is going to end them. Don't you worry, Professor Thermiro, I beamed. From now on, we're going to win with strength, too. I suppose we are. You're a reliable one, Sharon. Professor Thermiro the idiot didn't suspect a thing. Even with his insight, he just gave me a patronizing smile, like he was listening to a child's silly joke. I smiled right back. Since you're only 7, we'll be seeing a lot of each other. But first, congratulations on your enrollment. As of today, you are a warrior apprentice. Thank you, sir. I look forward to working with you, Professor Thermiro. Hehe. It'll be a short acquaintance, but let's try to have a fun school life. Okay, Professor. It turned out Alec Thermiro was looking for me to finalize my enrollment and register my unique sacred armament. Yes, my unique sacred armament, not a hand-me-down like the Hammer Maiden, the Sun, or the Moon. This would be a brand new weapon, forged just for me. It's no exaggeration to say I came to this academy specifically for this moment. Okay, maybe it's a little bit of an exaggeration. I'm also here to slaughter every demon nesting in this school. But one of my primary goals was finally right in front of me. The academy grounds were massive, and they contained a lake that was just as vast. Just walk into the lake, Professor Thermiro had explained with a vague wave of his hand. The sacred armament will appear before you. I didn't hesitate. I marched right into the water. The stars and the moon shimmered on the surface. My bare feet sank into the fine, soft sand of the lake bed. It was strange. A lake this size should have been teeming with fish, but I couldn't see a single one. Maybe it was just because it was night, or maybe there was nothing else living here, or maybe this place belonged to something else entirely. Help us, hero. I heard a voice. It wasn't human. It sounded like a language I couldn't understand being forced into human words, a strange and haunting vibration. Who's there? I asked. We are what your kind calls holy beasts. We are those who were broken by the monsters and the demons. We are the ones who grant purity to mankind. Holy beasts. I'd seen plenty of demonic beasts, but the holy ones were always missing. I guess this is where they were hiding. We give to humans, but the demons steal from us. They cannot hear our voices. We are helpless. We are sorry. So sorry. Help us, hero. Help us, huh? I scoffed. It was a pathetic, tragic little plea, but honestly, I didn't care. I felt for them, sure, but I didn't have the time or the interest to go on a rescue mission for a bunch of spirits. The way I see it, there are demons all over this world just waiting for me to kill them. I just wanted my weapon, so I could get on with it. If you want a savior, go find someone else, I said. But look, Even if you didn't ask, I'm still going to slaughter every demon and demonic beast I find. If you want to help me do that, I'll take whatever power you're offering. We will give you everything, whatever you desire. What do you want? Everything. Give it all to me. So greedy, so hungry. You are a hero who shows no restraint. You want to get scrapped? I growled. Then just give me a tool I can use to murder demons. Something satisfying. Something that makes those bastards tremble the moment they hear the name Sharon Burner. Oh, how frightening. What a terrifying hero. Do you truly love violence so much? Oh, I love it. I grinned. It's much simpler for both of us that way, don't you think? Very well. We like violence too. We like things that are simple. We will give you our very best. The hero, Sharon Burner, has obtained a sacred armament. Sacred armament identified. The name was innocent violence. True power is a heavy trust, given not to satisfy the hunger of the ego, but to stand as a barrier against the dark. For a hand that is granted the strength of a storm must also possess the wisdom to know when to strike, and the mercy to know when to stay the blade. Chapter 23. Innocent violence. My skin crawled. It was that feeling you get when you've made a mistake you can't fix, but you're just standing there, watching it happen. It's like seeing a tiny spark land on a pile of dry leaves on a magnificent mountain and thinking, oh, it'll probably just go out on its own. What the hell is happening? It was just a standard sacred armament ritual. There was no reason for anything to go wrong. If anything, Vanus Lilac was more concerned about making sure Sharon Burner didn't trip and drown in the lake. But a sudden, inexplicable chill swept over him, making him shiver despite himself. Is it just the night air? The starlight reflected off the surface of the peaceful, mystical lake. The wind was cold, sure, but this wasn't a normal chill. This was a jagged, biting dread that he couldn't put into words. Something ominous had just entered the world. A sudden burst of light erupted from the water where Sharon stood. A blinding, brilliant silver white flared up, tearing through the shroud of the night. The heat that followed felt like it was searing his skin, and he knew it wasn't an illusion. Sacred armaments didn't always take the form of a sword. People only called them holy blades, because the very first hero happened to receive one shaped like a blade. The holy beasts of the lake manifested a weapon based on a specific desire. Please, they whispered, kill the demons. But a sword wasn't enough anymore. Ever since the original holy blade had been stolen by the demon race, the holy beasts had been searching for a new answer. While the hero's bloodline was being systematically hunted down, the spirits of the lake had been forging weapon after weapon, waiting for this exact moment. Are those gauntlets? A pair of shimmering silver gauntlets now covered Sharon's arms from her fingertips to her elbows. Vanus scowled instinctively. It was a hideous colour to him, between Alicia's hair and now this. He was starting to find silver very unlucky. Roseanne hadn't cared about such things, but Vanus, having served the Demon King as a crimson minister for so long, had developed a bit of a superstitious streak. Silver hair and a silver sacred armament. I really don't like the look of this. If it weren't for Alicia's request, he would have killed the girl weeks ago. Silver was a bad omen. He wondered how Roseanne could have ever felt attracted to a girl like this. He let out a sigh of half annoyance, half admiration for his late friend's sister. That was when the voices started. It's over. It's over. The end of the demons. Pay the price. Someone was whispering in the wind, their voice like a haunting melody. Who's there? Vanus demanded. He reached into his duster, his hand closing around his demonic armament. It would be risky to kill someone in front of Sharon, but if there was someone in this academy who knew his true identity, he had to eliminate the threat immediately. We are the ones you murdered. We are the ones you defiled. We are the ones who curse your kind from this earth. Holy beasts, huh? You gave me a heart attack. Vanus spat. If you're done giving the kid her toy, then get lost. Hee hee. Ha ha ha. It's already finished. Professor, I'm all done. Sharon came wading out of the water, the silver gauntlets gleaming on her arms. The irritating whispers vanished instantly. Usually, they're whining about stop or don't kill us in those pathetic, annoying voices, Vanus thought. They were awfully bold today. In the end, it was just noise. The holy beasts were nothing but remnants. Spirits whose only purpose was to churn out weapons. They were pinning their hopes on a fragile human child, only to have their creation stolen by the demon race time and again. To Vanus and the rest of the Crimson Ministers, the entities in this lake weren't even worth thinking about. A silver-haired apprentice with a silver weapon. It was a bad omen, sure, but that was it. It was like a black cat crossing your path or a shoelace snapping. It was a superstition, not a death sentence. HMPH. They probably just got excited over a 7-year-old, he mused. If we keep killing humans at this rate, 7 is going to be the average age of the people coming to this lake soon. Don't get your hopes up. And so, He ignored the look on Sharon's face, the expression of a predator about to savor its prey. He didn't hear her tiny, terrifying whisper, "I can't wait to kill them." "Sharon?" "Yes, Professor." "What is it?" she chirped, her face instantly returning to a mask of innocence. "Nothing. Just show me what you got from the lake. I need to register the name and characteristics of your sacred armament. I'll expect to see what it can do in training tomorrow or the day after." "Of course. Here you go." Sharon held out her arms. To Vaness, the gauntlets looked completely unremarkable. Aside from being a brilliant, polished silver, they were just standard armor. The fingers were sharp, and there were some reinforced plates over the knuckles that looked like they might slide forward into a brass knuckle configuration when she made a fist. But that was it. A dud, he concluded. Was this really what the holy bees were so excited about? The end of the demons? What a joke. Vaness smirked internally at the silent spirits. Sacred armaments varied wildly in power. Some were legendary, others, like Monica Housel's, were so useless they didn't even have a clear function. Sharon's gauntlets were straightforward, which was nice for a kid, but if you wanted a pair of gloves, you could just go to a blacksmith, unless a weapon was a sword, an axe, or a hammer, something with clear reach and devastating utility, or possess some unique magical property. The demon race considered it a failed manifestation. Turning Sharon Burner into a proper warrior is going to be a long road if she's starting with a handicap like that, he thought. At least he had plenty of time, he sighed, regretting the fact that he'd agreed to Alicia's favour so easily. He reached out and tapped the silver surface of the gauntlets, looking for any hidden magical resonance, but found nothing. "What's the name of this blade?" "It's called Innocent Violence," she shouted happily. The name is more intimidating than the weapon, Vaness thought, though he didn't say it aloud. "All right, registration is complete. Go find Monica outside and have her finish showing you around. You'll be sharing a room with her and Lena. That's all." "Thank you so much, Professor." Without another word, Sharon sprinted off toward the entrance of the lake, where Monica was waiting. She probably couldn't wait to show off her new toy. It's not a game, kid, he thought, but she was only 7. Honestly, after seeing her witness Roseanne's death, Vaness was glad she still had some spirit left in her. If she had been traumatized into catatonia, he wouldn't have been able to fulfill Alicia's request. "Enjoy yourself while you can," he thought, watching her small figure disappear. "You're nothing but an offering to soothe the soul of my dear Roseanne." He reached up to adjust his hat, but as he did, a sharp sting flared in his palm. "Oh, what the—" He stared at his hand. The skin and flesh were crumbling away, turning into grey ash that drifted off in the wind. It was a phenomenon he knew all too well. It was exactly what happened when a demon's mana core was shattered. But his core was perfectly intact. The one who walks in arrogance often fails to see the rot within their own shadow, believing their strength is eternal. For the truth does not always strike with the thunder of a hammer, but can arrive as a quiet decay that begins the moment we believe ourselves untouchable. Chapter 24. Learning to use a new toy. Not giving me the manual is just plain rude, don't you think? So Monica, tell me how this thing works. The holy beasts were happy enough to hand it over, practically shouting, "Here, go kill some demons with this." But I realized too late that I'd forgotten to ask for the instructions. Not that it really matters. I've got a literal encyclopedia of this world's original plot right here in the form of a reincarnated girl. There's no reason for me to linger in that freezing lake any longer than necessary. I mean, seriously, how did the current you even get that? Monica shrieked. "That's a hidden cheat item. You're not supposed to get it unless your karma is below 10, your stats are maxed out, and you're on the demon genocide route. You're even supposed to have mastered the weapon master and fighter styles just to equip it. How on earth is your karma so low?" Or so she says. Apparently, karma is a value in this world that increases based on the sins you commit. The worse a person is, the higher the number, the more virtuous they are, the lower it stays. The funny part is that unlike skill levels, karma has no cap. I guess that's the world's way of saying human depravity knows no bounds. Is it really that shocking that my karma is low? I asked. I haven't done a single bad thing, after all. This isn't fair. Monica sputtered. You literally tortured me. Torture? That was just a little water play, wasn't it? Like hell it was. Whether Monica accepts it or not doesn't change the reality of my low karma. I wish she wouldn't shout like that in public just because she can't handle the truth. For a girl her age, she's got zero grace. So, I prompted, what about the actual usage? How do I use these to kill demons as efficiently as possible? I didn't want a lecture on the law behind innocent violence. I wanted the tactical breakdown. Well, that's Monica suddenly looked away, avoiding my eyes. Look at her, acting all shy and sweet. She's a bottom tier warrior, and yet here she is, worrying about the well-being of the demons hiding in this school. How merciful. Does she think I'm an idiot? What was that? Having trouble finding the words. Look, if you don't want to tell me, fine, you're free to stay silent, but instead, I'll just try a mana boost right here, right now. It'll be a surprise for me to see what happens, but I'm guessing it won't be a fun surprise for you. What? No, there's no way you can use mana boost yet. You're bluffing. Total bluff. She's got good instincts. It was a total bluff. I'd only seen mana boost once when Rosen hit me with the full output of her Hammer Maiden. I have no idea how mana boost actually works, but I figure if I just shove enough mana into the gauntlets, I'll figure it out pretty quickly. And judging by the way Monica is panicking, shoving mana into these things is going to lead to something very happy indeed. You think so? Well, I wouldn't bet your life on it. Unlike the water play, I have no idea how to hold back with this. I can't use spells, but I can feel the flow of energy inside me. I concentrated that power into my arms, and the change was instant. With a mechanical clack, innocent violence began to shift. The silver plate slid forward, extending the armoured section past my elbows. I'd suspected as much from watching Rosen, but it seems these sacred armaments physically transform when you channel mana through them. Realising things were about to go south, Monica turned pale and lunged at my arm. There's something distinctly suspicious about a tall teenage girl clinging desperately to a 7-year-old child like her life depended on it. Fine, stop, I'll tell you. Just stop doing that right now. Good. See, it's much easier when you're honest. I shook my arm, flinging the sweaty, annoying girl off me. I'm going to start charging her a fee for the physical contact soon. Still, the threat worked. It seems my hunch about mana boost was right. I felt a bit unsatisfied stopping there, but for the sake of Monica's frantic face, I decided to play nice. I'm generous like that. Well, ugh. Innocent violence is a set of gauntlets that function as both a striking weapon and high-level armor. What makes them unique is that they channel a specific elemental affinity, and they can temporarily imbue that affinity into any other weapon you hold. There, that's it. Done. She was trying to end the conversation again. Did she really think she could brush me off with vague summaries? Not quite. What's this specific affinity you're talking about? She groaned, looking like she wanted to cry. It's the same attribute as the original hero's holy blade. In the game, that sword and those gauntlets are the only things that can use it. It's a power that shatters matter composed of mana basically. It's a demon's lair attribute. There's fire, water, wind, but light is exclusive to those two. Light, is it? If it's so effective, you'd think the holy beasts would be handing out light attribute weapons like candy. They're really stingy, aren't they? If every warrior had a light attribute weapon, humanity wouldn't be getting trampled like this. Then again, that would mean fewer kills left for me. Don't get technical with me, look. It's a game mechanic, okay? It's for game balance and to make the protagonist feel special. There's even a low reason that normal humans can't handle it. Even though they're called sacred armaments, that sounds like false advertising. The word light isn't in the name, is it? It's not a scam. I guess that makes sense. In a game logic kind of way. So, the summary is, light attribute weapons are insanely strong but restricted to the hero, which meant if I used it too much, the demons would figure out who I am. Better to stick to raw physical force for now. I'll save the light show for when I definitely need someone dead. I don't mind them finding out eventually, but I'd like to enjoy the school life bit for a while longer. So, that Lena girl, she's the protagonist of the second game, but she can't use light. That's rough for her. Actually, her base stats are monstrous, and light is just a bonus against demons. You can still kill them with other attributes if you have enough strength to pin them down until they run out of mana, and then crush the mana core. Well, you can do it with your bare hands. But you'd know all about that, wouldn't you, Miss No Sacred Armament Acquired? I suppose she's right. I did kill Roseanne without a weapon after all. But Lena doesn't get strong until her sister is murdered, right? Is she going to be okay? From what I've heard, Lena Sandalan's power spike only happens after her sister is killed, and she goes on a revenge quest against Roseanne. She'll be weaker than her original self, I guess, but if things get bad, I've got my own weapon. It's not for fighting, but it's specialized for escape. I can get myself and one or two others out of here in a heartbeat. So her plan is to desert the moment things get hairy. Her survival instincts are truly something else. And isn't your friend Lena Sandalan currently being told about the situation at her village? Shouldn't you be checking on her? Oh, Monica turned pale. Without another word, She bolted, leaving me standing there. Honestly, running off and leaving a cute, innocent girl like me all alone. I didn't have anything better to do, so I let out a sigh and started following the idiot. Knowledge is a lantern that can light the way, or a fire that can burn the hand. For the one who seeks to control the future through secrets will find that true peace is only attained when we act with a heart that is honest in the present. Chapter 25. The Ghost's Footsteps. It wasn't exactly an agonizing pain. Vanus Lilac sat in the dark, quietly analysing the situation as he watched his own palm crumble into fine, grey ash. There were too many variables he didn't understand. Was it even real? The fact that a mere touch from Sharon Berner's sacred armament could cause this kind of damage felt like a fever dream. Sure, there were rare cases where a student accidentally triggered their weapon during registration, resulting in minor injuries. But this is different, he whispered. Usually, with a constant flow of mana through his body, Vanus could regenerate from almost anything big or small in a heartbeat. This wound on his palm showed no sign of closing. It was as if something was actively sabotaging his body's ability to heal. I really don't want to go there, he thought, but this feels exactly like the wound on Rosen's mana core. It was a phenomenon he'd never seen before, yet he knew of only one thing it resembled: the jagged, unhealing scar left by the hero's final strike. Rosen had carried that curse until the very moment the ghost finished her off. The fact that his hand refused to knit back together felt far too deliberate to be a coincidence. Still, he couldn't go public with a guess. If he started spreading rumors that a human had manifested a sacred armament with the same properties as the hero's legendary blade, it would cause a total meltdown among the other demons. Besides, he mused, there's Alicia. If he reported the truth about Sharon's weapon now, she would be marked for harvesting immediately. If that happened, he'd be failing Alicia. With Rosen gone, there wasn't much left in this world to comfort her. She needed Sharon, at least until the girl became a full-fledged warrior. To a man focused on his lover's grief, the threat of a 7-year-old girl with a special weapon didn't seem nearly as important as her mental state. Lord Vanus, the voice drifted through the heavy silence of the night. A student had slipped into the cathedral, heading straight for the confession booth where Vanus was perched. In this school, nobody would ever suspect that a demon was lurking inside a holy sanctuary, especially not in a place meant for repentance. That was the irony of it. The only people who used the confessionals this late at night were fellow demons. Don't use that name while we're on the clock, Carler. Vanus sighed, his voice muffled by the wooden partition. It's too risky. There are people here who might recognize the title of a Crimson Minister. In this building, I'm Alec Thermiro, and you're just a student. We aren't superior and subordinate right now. We're just two teachers putting on a play. That's why we have the aliases. Oh right, I'm sorry, Professor Thermiro, the girl stammered from the other side of the wall. All my veteran subordinates were slaughtered by the hero, Vanus thought bitterly. Now I'm stuck with these rookies who can't even remember a simple code name. He knew it was pointless to compare them, but he couldn't help it. Most demons were too bloodthirsty for their own good. They tended to look down on the work at Galileo Academy, hating the slow process of farming humans for experience and managing the sacred armaments. To hide your horns and your mana core, to blend in with the cattle for many of their kind, it was like being forced to live in a pigpen on all fours, just to raise the bacon. It was a massive hit to their pride. Only two kinds of demons could survive this job, the incredibly patient ones or the absolute freaks. Luckily, Carla Lennon was the patient type. She was a serious girl, even if she was a bit rigid. That was his official evaluation of her. Vanus pulled on a new glove to hide his crumbling hand and lit a cigarette to calm his nerves. He didn't have the energy to be angry at a rookie's mistake, a demon who lost his temper over something that small wouldn't last a week undercover. I'm afraid we still haven't found any solid leads on the ghost of the hero, Carla reported. As for Sharon Berner, I've traced her history as far back as I could. It seems she just appeared one day, having snuck into Adam Dort's merchant caravan. It's a bit suspicious, I suppose, but in this climate, it's a story you hear every day. When the demon invasions ramped up, the weak were always the first to be abandoned. Orphans were a dime a dozen. Sharon had just been lucky enough to find a wagon heading in the right direction. Or maybe she was unlucky, considering she'd been captured by Roseanne and forced to watch a massacre. Or maybe she was just favoured by that wretched goddess everyone prayed to. Which means we have no choice but to keep a very close eye on her, Vanus said. Why is that, sir? Do you have the map? Look at the route Adam Dort's caravan took. Now look at the locations where the demons were attacked and the demonic beasts were found pulverized. There are several points where they overlap perfectly. It's not every single one, but it's enough that coincidence feels like a stretch. Then, there was the matter of her weapon. Venice suspected that the ghost had a very specific interest in the girl. Wait, Carla's voice hitched with realization. If that's true, shouldn't we be watching The Merchants, too? We don't have the manpower for that. Besides, Natasha Frigga has a sharp eye. She interrogated the girl personally. Sharon told her to her face that she didn't know the man who saved her. If the girl was lying, Alicia would have seen right through it. Venice trusted Alicia's insight more than anything. Even if she was distraught over her sister, she wasn't the type to be fooled by a 7-year-old. I don't know how much of my theory is right, he thought. Maybe I'm completely off base. But if I'm not, sir, if you're right, doesn't that mean the ghost of the hero might be near the academy? Carla asked, her voice trembling with fear. Venice let the silence answer for him. Honestly, he might already be inside, he thought. The way Roseanne was killed, strangled and broken without the use of a sacred armament. If the killer's goal wasn't just to torture her, but because they didn't have a weapon of their own yet, then the academy was the perfect target. The ghost would naturally try to infiltrate the school to get their hands on a blade. I don't even want to imagine it, he shuddered. Losing the Hammer Maiden, the sun, and the moon was bad enough. If he gets into the lake of selection, we're in for a nightmare scenario. I can't tell you that everything is going to be fine, Banner said, his voice surprisingly soft. I'm a man who's already lost one team to a hero, but I promise you this. I won't let another one of my people be slaughtered by that ghost. His own wounds from the previous hero were still fresh in his mind. He'd watched his entire unit get wiped out. If they hadn't sacrificed themselves, he wouldn't even be here to breathe. Could I fight that monster again? He wondered. Yeah, I could, but he didn't want to lead anyone else to their deaths. That cowardice was the real reason he'd left the front lines. That was why he'd taken this unbecoming job as a teacher, spending every breath pretending to be something he wasn't. Oh, no sir, I didn't mean I trust you completely, Lord Vanis. Forget the flattery. Just remember, it's Professor Thermiro. Now tell me what the two deviants are up to. The deviants. Vanis dreaded the answer, but it was his job to manage the personnel. He pinched the bridge of his nose, waiting for the report on his most problematic subordinates. You mean Nana and Barry, right? Who else? Despite the rule that students were forbidden from leaving the grounds, those two were constantly sneaking out into Londomel and beyond to conduct their experiments. Well, it looks like they're trying to fuse captured demonic beasts and holy beasts, Carla whispered. They're trying to create a chimera. Of course they are. Vanis wished they would at least wait until the ghost problem was solved before playing God. But he couldn't let his own subordinates see him despair. He pulled out a second cigarette and struck a match, trying to blow his frustrations away with the smoke. A secret kept in the heart is like a seed planted in the dark. It will eventually grow toward the light, regardless of the gardener's intentions. For every truth suppressed creates a shadow that grows longer with the setting sun, until at last, the reality we feared becomes the only thing left to face. Chapter 26. A deadly provocation. Is there a doctor in the house who can treat the trauma of a teenage girl whose village was wiped out by demons? Honestly, I had half a mind to ask where I should vent my own frustrations. Monica Housel? Yeah, right. She was about as useful as a chocolate teapot. In the original story, it was even worse when her sister died, she'd say. I had to wonder how long she planned to treat real life like she was playing through a walkthrough. Dill, I wasn't exactly one to talk. Whatever state Lena Sandilan was in didn't really have anything to do with me. At first, I had zero intention of checking in on her. That was the plan anyway. But unfortunately, I couldn't change the fact that I was sharing a room with the moron and Lena. A 7-year-old kid getting a private room is a luxury, I get it. But did they really have to throw me in with a grieving girl and an idiot? I'd have preferred a room full of demons posing as students. If the bed was too small, I could just plan a few murders and have the whole place to myself. I didn't have any real beef with Lena. Since she was the protagonist of the second game, she didn't have many annoying traits. Well, except for the sobbing. Every night, I'd hear her whimpering from the bottom bunk, which was a total drain on my mental health. I'd have taken a snoring, drunken merchant over that any day. Finally, I hopped down, giving the sleeping Monica a solid kick to the gut for good measure, and crawled into Lena's bed. I whispered a few choice words and waited until she finally drifted off. It was the same therapy I'd almost given to Roseanne. But hey, if it works, it works. If she didn't like it, I would have just swapped her for the unconscious Monica. As long as I got some shut-eye, I didn't care who was next to me. Morning came, and surprisingly, things went off without a hitch. Lena didn't have the same twisted hang-ups as Roseanne, which was a relief. Sorry about last night, Sharon. I'm the older one, and yet I let you see me in such a pathetic state. Don't worry about it, Lena. After everything that happened, just don't push yourself too hard, okay? Cher and I hadn't really done much, but sharing a bed for one night apparently made her affection for me skyrocket. Fine by me. Better to keep my roommates on my side. Oh hey, Sharon, did you do something to me last night? I don't remember a thing, but my stomach is killing me. Who knows? Maybe you ate something weird off the floor. You really should stop doing that, Monica. What am I? A stray dog. The Galileo Academy of Magic technically accepts anyone, but a 7-year-old enrollee was apparently a first. I didn't have to attend the regular lectures. While Lena and Monica were stuck in class, I was left to rot in the massive library during the practice and exercise hours. Honestly, I didn't mind. I haven't had time to sit down with a book in 7 years, so I was actually a little excited. I could have gone hunting for the demons hiding in the school, but making suspicious moves right after starting would have been stupid. Any demon with a brain would have noticed the overlap between my travel route and the ghost's activities by now. I had to assume I was being watched. I couldn't keep my high-performance radar, Monica, with me all the time. If I did, the demons would notice her. She was an idiot and weak, but her knowledge of the original world made her a threat to them. She was my trump card, even if she was a flimsy one. If only I had the insight skill, I muttered, flipping through a book on basic magic. I just have to pray I got it. After killing the next demon, skill acquisition wasn't a choice. It was a random drop based on what the system thought I needed. I'd fought so much that my anti-demon build was almost complete. But the downside was that I had zero social skills. Mechanically speaking, I couldn't read people worth a damn. I had no way to see through a demon's disguise. When I told Monica I'd seen through Alicia, she said it was probably my sixth sense skill. Apparently, that just flags weird vibes. She called it a bottom-tier version of insight. Considering I'd seen through her being a total moron, I was inclined to trust it at least a little. So, I was stuck with a broken radar. Fine, I just make myself the bait. If you want to catch a big fish, you need a big hole in the net. I needed someone who was out of class when they shouldn't be. Someone close to the teachers I knew were demons. And most of all, you're Sharon Burner, right? Someone approached me the moment I was alone. Yes, that's me. A girl with long, midnight blue hair reached out toward me. Nice to meet you. I'm Calla Lennon. While Lena and Monica are busy, Professor Thermiro asked me to look after you. Mind if I sit? And she was best buds with Professor Thermiro. It was 3 strikes, lady. Are you even trying to hide the fact that you're a grey zone suspect, Carla? Of course, but we're in the library, so we should probably keep our voices down. It's fine. No one uses the library at this hour. We can chat here without anyone bothering us. Oh, so you can kill me without anyone bothering us? How scary. Calla sat down and stared at me. Yeah, go ahead and use insight. See the word hero yet, you moron? Honestly, I wish I could just kill everyone who looks at me with those eyes for invasion of privacy. Is there something on my face? Oh no, nothing. It's just your silver hair is very striking. Oh, she was going there, was she? Yes, it's the silver the demons fear. Everyone I met on my journey told me how much they loved it. They said it's like the light from the hero's holy blade. It's just a color, but they always told me the same thing. Thanks to you, little lady, we aren't afraid of the demons anymore. Carla's eyebrow twitched. Oops, did I strike a nerve? It wasn't like she was a demon who got off on being feared by humans, right? Or maybe she was just jealous of my hair. Don't be like that, Calla. Showing how petty you are on our first meeting is a bad look. You're more energetic than I expected. The report said you were at the scene of a demon massacre. I thought you'd be. You thought I'd be shaking with trauma. That's where you're wrong, Calla. The way they were killed was pretty gross. Sure, but we're talking about a piece of trash, a maggotier parasite, being exterminated. Why wouldn't I be happy about that? True strength does not lie in the ability to deceive others, but in the courage to face one's own reflection without a mask, for the tongue can be a healer or a slayer, a bridge or a wall, and the heart that carries malice will eventually betray its own disguise when the light of truth finally dawns. Chapter 27. A lesson in restraint. This brat. Did she really just call us maggots feeding on rot? It was beyond insolent for a child who had merely lucked into surviving Rosen's massacre. Sharon Burner possessed a delusion of grandeur that didn't fit her station. In Carla Lennon's eyes, the girl was alive by sheer fluke, rescued by a ghost before the inevitable could happen. To not only fail to appreciate her survival, but to use that borrowed life to mock the demon race was something Carla couldn't let slide. It's fine to be happy you're alive, Carla said, her voice dropping to a warning chill, but big-mouthed kids like you are usually the first to go. If you want to see your next birthday, you'd better drop the tough talk and watch your tongue. Oh goodness, where are my manners? Forgive me, Sharon chirped, though her golden eyes danced with a localized madness. It's just demons are such comical creatures, don't you think? I mean, when they're about to die, they cry and scream and beg for mercy just like humans do. Don't you find that hilarious? I wouldn't call it hilarious, Kala replied stiffly. Oh, dear. And here, I thought it was a perfect icebreaker. I guess it wasn't to your taste. It wasn't, not even a little. The thought of Rose and Callisto's final screams at the hands of the ghost of the hero was not something Carla wanted to visualize. As long as that vengeful spirit was out there, most demons lived in a state of suppressed terror. The only reason the demons nesting in the academy were tolerating Sharon at all was to use her as bait to lure that predator out. You only breathe because Lord Vanis allows it, Kala thought bitterly. I could snap your neck in a heartbeat if I weren't under orders to keep my hands off. The thought of her own absolute power over the girl soothed Carla's wounded pride. As long as she held the power of life and death, she could overlook Sharon's accidental provocations, or so she told herself. But first, the child needed a reality check. Well, as much as I'd love to listen to more of your boring stories, Carla said, with a thin smile, Professor Thermiro actually asked me to test the capabilities of your sacred armament. I assume you're willing to cooperate? Testing Sharon's innocent violence was the perfect excuse. It provided a sanctioned way to break the girl's spirit. I won't kill her, Kala promised herself. I'll keep the injuries reasonable. But by the time I'm done, there won't be a shred of that arrogance left. To mock the demon race was a sin. Whether the girl realized who she was talking to was irrelevant. Thinking it is a crime. Speaking it is a sentence. The tongue is a gateway to disaster. Once the words are out, they can never be pulled back. Sharon was going to pay for her disrespect with her own body. Carla led the girl to one of the many training halls scattered across the academy grounds, choosing a secluded one that was currently empty. A quick mention of Professor Thermiro's name ensured the request for private use was granted without question. It was a stage built for breaking a 7-year-old. No witnesses, no interference. Carla took a breath and manifested her demonic armament. She didn't need to kill, she just needed to re-educate. And for someone like Sharon, simple, physical agony was the best teacher. The weapon, silent sadism, took the form of reinforced greaves, a mix of elegant high-heeled boots and heavy Western-style plate armor. Its function was brutal and efficient. It was made for kicking things to death. The shins, toes, heels, and knees were all adorned with hidden blades and jagged protrusions, but its true value lay in the speed it granted. Even by demon standards, the velocity Carla could achieve under mana boost was staggering. I'm ready, Carla said, settling into a predatory stance. Come at me whenever you like. Ready already? Okay, here I come. Sharon clapped her silver gauntlets together with a metallic clang and signaled her start. That silver is hideous, Kala thought. It's the same colour as her hair. Lord Vanis told me to be careful of those gauntlets, but aside from the colour, they looked like standard issue junk. They were sturdy, sure, but they seemed designed for nothing more than basic brawling. Compared to the lethal elegance of silent sadism, they looked like a budget manifestation. A bottom-tier version of my own gear, Kala concluded. She watched Sharon run towards her with the clumsy, unrefined gait of a child. It was pathetic. The girl was wide open, her guard practically an invitation to be struck. If Carla kicked her full force, the girl would shatter, and the excuse of testing would be blown. Sharon threw a punch. It was exactly what you'd expect from a 7-year-old, slow, weak, and telegraphed. Kala didn't even bother to dodge. She wanted to see if the gauntlets had any hidden sting, so she took a couple of hits to her arms. Nothing, no resonance, no magical discharge. A total dud. Did she really think just getting a sacred armament made her a match for us? How tragic. All right, I've seen enough of your offense, Carla said, her voice dripping with boredom. Let's see how you handle defense. I'm going to attack now, so you'd better try your hardest to stay in one piece. Unless you want a broken nose. Oh, Sharon missed the warning. Carla moved, her legs snapping out in a blur of motion. Sharon's head was at the perfect height for a mid-level kick. Kala didn't hold back much. The small, light body was sent tumbling across the hall. Sharon bounced twice against the stone floor before skidding to a halt. Her nose was definitely broken. Blood began to coat the silver of her innocent gauntlets. You should learn to brace yourself, Kala mocked. It's all well and good to talk big about the demons, but if you're going to get killed by someone like me, You won't last a day in the real world. Or were you planning on relying on luck again? I hope you have some left. Hey, it was a bizarre sight. Her nose was crooked, blood was pouring down her face, and yet Sharon wasn't crying. She wasn't even screaming. She was just lying there, her golden eyes fixed on Carla with that same, infuriatingly smug grin. That's an interesting way of looking at it, Carla. Sharon wheezed, sitting up. Do you think luck is a limited resource? Because honestly, ever since I was born into this world, I felt like the luckiest girl alive. So I guess my luck is running out, isn't it? Her eyes said the exact opposite. They were eyes that didn't believe in luck, eyes that believed only in the kill. It was deeply unsettling. Even after a blow that would have sent most kids into shock, she wasn't afraid. She actually thinks she can kill me, Carla realized with a jolt of annoyance. I'll give you credit for one thing, Carla spat. You've got guts, but guts don't change the fact that you're weak. If you're so frustrated, why don't you try putting some mana into that weapon of yours? I haven't been taught how to use mana yet, Sharon chirped, holding her hands up and beckoning Carla forward with a taunting wave. So, I guess this is all I've got. My best versus yours. Fine then, Carla thought, her blood beginning to boil. If you won't break, I'll just keep kicking until there's nothing left to break. The one who seeks to humble another through pain often finds that the truly strong are those whose spirit cannot be touched by a blow, for a heart forged in truth is like a diamond. The harder it is struck, the more it reveals its inner light. Chapter 28. Reports and repercussions. What exactly are you doing, Sharon? Huh? Sunbathing. I'm soaking up the rays. Can't you tell, with your uniform in tatters on your very first day? Yeah, uniform's a bit of a mess. I'm 7, Monica. You take your eyes off a kid for a second, and a shirt or two is bound to get shredded. And the blood? There is blood literally everywhere. Yeah. Blood's everywhere. I'm 7. You take your eyes off a kid for a second, and the place turns into a slaughterhouse. It happens. It does not happen. We just got here. What on earth have you done? Monica Housel had found me sprawled out on the stone tiles, basking in the light after Carla Lennon had finished her little session of re-education. Honestly, the woman had zero restraint when it came to children. She'd broken my left arm and my nose, claiming that minor injuries can be fixed with recovery magic anyway. I was pretty sure she'd done a number on my ribs and internal organs, too. Blood pooling around me was mine, obviously. If she'd put any more weight into those kicks, that sacred armament of hers would have sliced right through to the bone. She'd held back just enough to avoid that, but she'd still carved plenty of gashes and puncture wounds into me. One of the seniors decided to give me a little welcome to school beatdown, I said. Pretty rough, right? Carla wouldn't just jump straight to this level of violence, Monica muttered, looking suspicious. What did you do? You provoked her, didn't you? Oh, that's funny, I chirped, my voice returning to its sweet, melodic tone. I never mentioned it was Carla. How did Big Sister Monica know it was her? Monica froze. She realized she'd let her guard slip. Her hand went to her mouth as she scrambled for an excuse. Just years of experience and intuition. I'd given her plenty of time to think, and that was the garbage she came up with. Your experience is trash. You just know there's something off about that woman. SHH. Quiet, Monica hissed, looking around frantically. You don't know who's listening. Don't say things like that so carelessly. You're the one being careless, you moron. I wasn't going to just blurt out the word demon in the middle of the hallway. Carla, who I assumed was my designated observer, had already left to file her report. My detection skill wasn't picking up anything nearby. As long as Monica didn't keep shouting at the top of her lungs, we were fine. But seriously, Monica whispered, leaning in. If your theory is right, why did you just let her do this to you? This is your blood we're sitting in, because there was zero benefit to me winning that fight. What? Did you want me to start a riot on my first day, so I can skip class? I'd weighed my options before the first kick landed. Option 1, kill Carla. Pros, experience points and a new sacred armament. Cons, the demons would immediately view me as a high-level threat. The school would go into lockdown, and the more cowardly demons might just flee. More importantly, it would link me directly to the ghost of the hero. One mid-tier life and a pair of boots wasn't worth blowing my cover. Option 2, use innocent violence to beat her without killing her. This was also out. It offered me nothing and revealed the capabilities of my new weapon to the enemy. My threat level would go up and my freedom of movement would go down. Option 3, beat her without using the gauntlets. Same problem. It shows I'm a combat prodigy. If I'm that strong, I'm a target. If I was going to show that much power, I might as well have just killed her. Option 4, lose on purpose. This was a winner. Not only did I protect my cover, but I got to study her. I saw her stance, her reliance on her right leg, her speed, her ocular tracking, everything. I pulled every scrap of data I could out of her. In exchange, all Carla got from me was the sight of a 7-year-old girl moving like a total amateur. If I played it right, she might even misinterpret innocent violence as a weapon that simply increases the user's durability or fighting spirit, rather than a lethal tool. So that's your excuse? Monica asked flatly. Were you even listening, you brat? Do you want a little sand play after the water play? I scooped up a handful of dirt from a nearby planter and chucked it right in her face. I explained the whole strategy from start to finish, and she doesn't understand a single word. And you're telling me this is what innocent violence can do? Inside the confessional, Vanis Lilac stared at the report in his hands, unable to believe his eyes. Yes, sir, was there something wrong with the data? On the other side of the partition, Carla braced herself, fearing she'd made a clerical error. No, the report stated that the unique property of innocent violence appeared to be a significant boost to the wielder's combat morale and a passive increase in their recovery speed. It was worlds away from what Vanis had expected. The silver light didn't manifest, or is it? He stroked his beard, cycling through several theories before dismissing them all. But Professor Thermiro, just as you suspected, it really is a remarkable weapon, Carla added. I mean, even a child was able to withstand several of my kicks. Vanis caught a subtle shift in her voice. She didn't sound threatened. She sounded dismissive. How many times did you kick her? Excuse me? I asked how many times you kicked her. He expected her to say 5, maybe 10, 20 at the absolute most. 2. I stopped counting after 200. Carla bowed her head in the dark, her voice small and apologetic. Vanis needed a moment to process that. To test the performance of a sacred armament, his subordinate had kicked a 7-year-old girl at least 200 times. You absolute moron, he hissed, his voice trembling with rage. Why would you go that far just for a performance test? Answer me. Calla Lennon. I am sorry, sir, but she was being so disrespectful. She was mocking our kind. And so what? A human child was being rude. Perish the thought. Sharon Burner is our only lead on the ghost. You almost killed her out of some petty, self-righteous anger. Who gave you the order to kill her? I truly apologize. Vanis had only just returned from cleaning up the mess made by Nana and Barry. To come back to this a blunder by Carla, who was usually his most reliable student, was almost more than he could take. If Carla had used silent sadism on an unprotected child, she could have easily severed limbs. Even with restraint, 200 kicks should have been fatal. It was a miracle the girl was still breathing. If she's still alive after that, then innocent violence definitely protected her, but still, he forced himself to take a deep breath. Screaming at a subordinate might feel good, but it didn't fix the situation. Whose fault is this? Mine. I underestimated how much a demon's pride would cloud Carla's judgment. I'm sorry, Carla, he said, his voice flat. This was my mistake for trusting you with this task. I'm handing Sharon's surveillance over to Nana or Barry. You are to have no further contact with her. It was a demotion, plain and simple. Carla was a serious worker, unlike the other 2 freaks, but she didn't possess their lack of ego. Nana and Barry were unpredictable, but they weren't prone to outbursts of pride. Their reports might be messy, but they were safer than Carla's independent streak. But sir, in that moment, Carla realized just how much weight Vanis was putting on Sharon Burner. For years, she had trained to be a perfect soldier for the legendary Vanis Lilac. She had killed Kansas humans on the battlefield just to prove her worth. To have his disappointment directed at her, and to have her position given to 2 deviants who spent their time playing with monsters, was an insult she couldn't swallow. I won't let it happen again. Please just give me one more chance. She felt humiliated. The life of Sharon Burner and the whims of those 2 failures were currently worth more to Vanis than her entire career. The realization stung her pride worse than any physical blow. She bowed her head low, even though he couldn't see her. She had endured the shame of pretending to be a human just to serve under him. She wasn't going to lose it all now. Vanis wasn't a heartless man. He saw her desperation. There won't be a 3rd time, he said. You understand what that means, Calla Lennon. He wasn't a soft man, either. On the other side of the wall, there was a faint, metallic click. It wasn't a toy or a joke. It was the sound of a hammer being cocked back, a warning that next time, his response would be final. The tongue of the arrogant often digs a pit that their own feet must eventually fall into, for power without self-control is a flame that consumes the one who holds it. True excellence is found not in the ability to crush the weak, but in the strength to restrain the ego when the heart burns with pride. Chapter 29. The madman's playground, they say failure is the mother of success. Listen closely, Nana. The lesson from this little experiment is simple. A hybrid of a demonic beast and a holy beast is surprisingly vicious. Based on that result alone, well, I'd say the lecture we got from Lord Vanis was well worth the trouble. Oh, but we couldn't even retrieve the test subject. If failure is the mother of success, then where is the baby? Isn't it weird that the child isn't even here in this room with us? Ha ha ha. Not weird at all. This academy has a very strict no pets policy. Maybe if it was palm-sized, it would be different. But our little chimera grew just a tiny bit too large. There's no way we could keep a beast that size on campus. If we're unlucky, some overeager warriors might stumble upon it and try to cull it. And if we're lucky, then the warriors sent to kill it will be wiped out instead. Ha ha ha, what a beautiful mess. A manic laugh echoed through the reflection room, a cramped, dingy space that looked more like a dungeon cell than a place for students. It smelled of mildew and stale air, hardly the kind of place where someone should be shouting with such glee. The laughter belonged to Barry Jestron. He wasn't exactly a poster boy for the student body. He clearly didn't give a damn about fashion. His hair looked like it had been hacked at by a blind amateur, leaving his bangs a jagged mess. He wore his uniform loosely, and the fabric was still stained with dried blood from his last experiment. Even with one lens of his round glasses cracked, he didn't seem to care. Everything about him screamed unhinged. Joining in his banter was a girl named Nana Callum. Unlike Barry, she seemed very tuned into her personal style, even if that style was a chaotic disaster. Her short cropped hair was dyed in streaks of neon colours, and her oversized uniform was covered in a ridiculous amount of clashing pins and accessories. She wasn't particularly short, but standing next to the lanky Barry, she looked much smaller than she actually was. At the moment, they were both locked up for their selfish, hobby-driven antics. The reflection rooms were reserved for those who took risks that might expose their true identities as members of the demon race. To the human students, the academy claimed these were just storage sheds, and a quick glance at the cluttered junk piled in the corners of each room made the lie believable enough. Despite the miserable environment, Barry and Nana are in high spirits. After all, things were getting interesting outside. They were certain the seeds they had planted were finally beginning to sprout. Just thinking about it made them giddy, and if their predictions were right, they'd be out of here soon. They were far too busy to waste time being depressed. Okay, so a bunch of warriors get slaughtered. That's great and all, Nana said, leaning back. But Barry, what actually caused the failure this time? It was likely a digestive incompatibility between the demonic beast and the holy beast components. Imagine sticking the head of a lion onto the body of an ant. Well, no, ants aren't herbivores, so that's a bad analogy. Anyway, the upper half was designed for carnivorous mana recovery, while the lower half was built for herbivorous mana recovery. The poor thing can't actually eat anything. It'll keep attacking humans and other creatures until its natural mana reserves run dry, but it'll be plagued by a constant, gnawing hunger the entire time. Barry spoke about the monster he'd unleash on the world with a disturbing sense of pride. He'd gained a lot of data from this failure. He had initially wanted a demonic beast with the powers of a holy beast, which hadn't quite worked out, but the fact that any two mana-bearing creatures could be synthesized at all was enough to keep him vibrating with excitement. This mother of failure has given me the theme for our next project. As long as we have this summer, our experiments will never have to end. Barry pulled a small vial from his coat and gave it a playful shake, laughing as the liquid inside caught the light. Summer. Once this fluid was injected into a body, the subject would begin to fuse with and predate upon any other Marna-holding life form it touched. It was the secret source behind his chimera. So, anything with Marna can be fused, right? Nana asked, her eyes wide. Does that mean it would work on us, too? That's kind of scary, isn't it? Oh, it's terrifying, Nana. You always come up with the most horrific ideas. Most people wouldn't even say that out loud. Eh? Am I really that bad? Ha 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 ha. That wasn't a compliment. In this world, the demon race sat at the very top of the Marna-bearing food chain. They would likely undergo a massive, irreversible transformation if exposed to Somer. However, neither Barry nor Nana had any intention of testing it on themselves. The reason was very simple. We're not actually going to do it, right? Of course not. I'm a scientist, not a suicide victim. I'm terrified of that stuff. Fear is a powerful stabilizer, even for the insane. Curiosity might kill the cat, but Barry knew exactly where the line was, which was exactly why he had already chosen his next subject. That's why we use humans. They don't have a Marna core, but their biological reactions should be close enough to give us the data we need. Ooh, is it finally time for human experimentation? Yes, we just find a wounded warrior who's being thrashed by the chimera, inject them with the somer, add a few interesting materials to the mix, and let the show begin. If my gut is right, the casualties on the front lines should be high enough by now. And here we go. Exactly as Barry predicted, the door to the room creaked open. Yutu's weary voice sighed. Could you please stop shouting? Everyone in the hallway can hear you. You're making it painfully obvious that you aren't actually reflecting on your behavior. It was Calla Lennon. She looked exhausted. It was hard to tell if her haggard expression was because she had to deal with these two problem children, or because of her own recent blunders. It was probably a bit of both. Oh, I'm reflecting, Barry said with a grin. I've reflected on the fact that my materials were poor quality. Totally reflecting over here, Nana added. Their lack of sincerity was like a sandpaper rub to Carla's nerves. These are the people Lord Vanus considers more valuable than me, she whispered to herself. These two freaks. It was a bitter reality for her to swallow. Now, Carla, Barry said, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. Just because your crush hasn't noticed your passion doesn't mean you should take it out on us. We haven't done anything to get in your way. There's no need to kick the horse just because the rider won't look at you. Yeah, you're just mad because you're aiming for a crimson minister and you're way out of your league. Blay. Nana stuck her tongue out. Carla's misfortune was that these two deviants had seen right through her unrequited feelings for Vanus. Usually, she could brush off their teasing, but today, it was the final straw. Demonic armament, unsheath. Whoa, that's a bit much. Nana, I think we should apologize. Right now. Oops. Sorry. Should she kill them? She probably should. It would be a service to the world, the demon race, and Lord Vanus. Carla already had one red card against her name. She couldn't afford to lose another of Vanus's pawns because of her own temper. With a monumental effort of will, she suppressed her demonic armament. You know why you're being let out. Calla snapped. That monster you built is causing too much of a ruckus. Go and get rid of it. Now. It would have starved to death eventually anyway, Barry sighed, sounding genuinely disappointed. Being a warrior is such a thankless job, and aren't we still technically just apprentices? No excuses. If that thing keeps killing humans at this rate, there won't be enough livestock left for the other demons. You understand the priority here, don't you? Protecting human life. When a demon said those words, they didn't mean it the way a human would. To them, it was just a matter of managing the herd. Right. Business as usual. Time for a job change from warrior apprentice to temporary warrior. You ready, Nana? Ready when you are. Excellent. Then, let's go and see if we can make a little profit out of all this hard work. The heart that plays with the balance of life is like a child playing with fire in a house of straw. For curiosity without conscience is a path that leads to a garden of thorns, where the only harvest is the sorrow of those who must live with the consequences of a mind that sought to be God. Chapter 30. A thug's verbal contract. This is bad. Sharon. I think an encounter flag, just triggered for a chimera attack it, was the morning after Carla had used me as a literal football. I was enjoying a graceful breakfast in the girls' dormitory dining hall when Monica decided to park her oversized ego and her pajamas in the seat right next to me. See, wait. What was that? Why are you giving me that pointed sigh? You shouldn't come to the dining hall without washing your face, Monica. Big sister Lena is already out at morning practice. Maybe you should take a page out of her book. Don't apply the stamina standards of goddess-blessed protagonist to a regular person like me. It's only 6 o'clock in the morning. It's already 6 o'clock. Anyway, out with it. There's no one else around, so I listen. But if this is boring, I'm sending you back to bed with a concussion. Terms like encounter flag didn't exist in the daily vocabulary of this world. Since they were coming out of Monica's mouth, I knew whatever she was about to say was going to be a massive pain in the neck. As it turned out, she was babbling about the request board. The board wasn't updated at 5 this morning. Not a single new listing. The request board was a system where warrior apprentices could take on elective demonic beast culling quests for extra credit. High-level students, including that bitch Carla, usually used these to fast-track their graduation requirements, so they could spend more time on independent activities. The difficulty was high, so only a handful of human elites could pull it off. Lena was one of them. Our resident protagonist had already cleared enough quests to secure her credits for the term, and yet she still attended every lecture and never slacked on her studies. Honestly, some people need to learn how to relax. Me? I'm just a 7-year-old girl with these skinny arms. I couldn't possibly face a demonic beast. Truly a tragedy. Between you and me, though. I'd heard that some of those quests were actually traps designed to kill off annoying humans or provide an excuse for demons to disappear for a while. If you're a kid thinking about enrolling at the Galileo Academy of Magic, take my advice. Pick your quests carefully, or you'll hit a bad end before the first semester is over. Anyway, back to the point. Exactly, Monica whispered. When the board is empty, it means there's a massive shortage of regular warriors, or something has happened that requires an emergency student deployment. Given the timeline, I'm almost certain it's a chimera. Hammond, wait, why do you look so bored? Because it didn't sound like a slaughter a demon event. To be honest, I'm sick of hunting demonic beasts. For every 100 demons I've killed, I probably put down 1,000 beasts. They don't scream right, they aren't fun to break, and the experience points are bottom shelf. If I'm going to kill something, I want it to have a mana core. You're awfully frantic, I noted. You hiding something from me? Haha, what? Me? No way, get a skill point in acting, you moron. I gave her a sharp pinch in the ribs. She buckled immediately and spilled everything. Fine. Look, the thing about emergency deployments is that they're mandatory, and the teams are set in 3-man cells by the faculty. Oh, well, good for you. At least you won't be the odd one out. Stop treating me like a loner. Problem is the 2 people I've been paired with. Right then, I felt someone's hands on my chest. I'm a 7-year-old girl. There is literally nothing there. You'd get more tactile feedback from a wooden plank or a fat middle-aged man. Which is to say, I had no idea who would be depraved enough to do this. Whoa, for real? There's actually a kid in this dump. Why? Ow. Is it bring your daughter to work day? Excuse me, and you are? I stayed perfectly calm. I activated my max level acting skill to ensure I didn't drop my innocent child mask. Me? I'm Nana Callum. Nice to meet you, Sharon. I glanced at Monica. She was vibrating with terror. It's a pleasure, Nana. But how did you know my name? PSH. Look at you, acting like you aren't the talk of the school. You're a kid in a nest of fanatics who want to butcher the demon race. You stand out like a sore thumb, man. If only your hair wasn't silver. What do you say? Want to dye it neon like mine? No, thank you. My personal creed is to do the exact opposite of whatever a demon wants. Why would I dye my hair some hideous fluorescent colour? Anything more eye-catching than silver would just give me a penalty on my stealth skill anyway. And you, Freckles? Nana's gaze shifted to Monica, and her voice dropped an octave. Monica withered like a leaf in a frost. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You're that tag-along who's always hiding behind Lena Sandalon. Looks like today's team is me, Barry, and you. The moment Nana looked at Monica, the playfulness vanished. I've always hated how you never draw your sacred armament and just cower behind Lena. Just so we're clear, me and Barry aren't going to lift a finger to protect you. Feel free to die. Just don't screw up our grade. You understood? Well, there's a reason, I thought. So much for staying under the radar to avoid demon hate. You're already on their blacklist, Monica. We'll have to have a long chat when I get back, Sharon. Nana chirped, and then the storm passed. So, that's the situation. Monica wheezed. What situation? Can't you see how screwed I am? I'm stuck between 2 psychopaths on a mission to cull a high-level demonic beast. If Lena isn't there, I'm dead. Say something. Anything. My condolences. Am I already dead in your head? I mean, looking at the math, yeah. It seemed Monica was facing her greatest crisis yet. Being teamed with Nana and Barry was a death sentence for her, and her only meat shield, Lena, had been assigned to a different sector. But I'm supposed to stay at the academy during emergencies, right? I asked, tilting my head. Are you asking me to break the rules, Monica? Look, just answer me this, so I can die without regrets. If you wanted to, could you slip past the teachers and join the mission? Could I? What a stupid question. Easily. Sharon, Lord Sharon, please, I'm begging you. It's the request of a lifetime. Save this miserable, low-tier worm. I'm not sure helping you would even earn me any points. With the goddess I'm already guaranteed a spot in heaven. Obviously, but even the divine can be fickle. It's always good to have insurance. If I end up in hell by mistake, I'll need a stepping stone to climb back out. Fine, I'll help, but on one condition. You don't say a word about what I do during the mission. Got it? I'm not as nice as Lena, Monica. You'd do well to remember that. Wait, you don't mean no. I definitely do. It was the perfect setup for a hunt. It had been a while since I'd finish off Rosen. If the ghost of the hero didn't make an appearance soon, the demons would start to get lonely. During this mission, I was going to kill. It was as simple as that. A promise is a debt of the soul, and the one who gives their word lightly often finds the weight of it crushing when the time comes to pay. For in a world of shifting shadows, the only thing that remains true is the integrity of a heart that refuses to betray its own bond.